how about the public for comments? You know, that's kind of a... Wow. It is on the back. Test.
All right, are we okay? You want to start? We're okay, Eileen? I'm ready. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Ridgewood Village Council Public Workshop, July 12th, 2021. The time is 7:30 p.m. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Councilwoman Perrin?
Here.
Councilwoman Reynolds?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Seaton is not here. Councilwoman Walsh?
Here.
And Mayor Knudsen?
Here. Please join us for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join us in a moment of silence for our men and women serving our nation and all of our first responders. Thank you. With that, we will go to public comments, not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Okay. Public comment? Okay. All right. Very good. We'll close public comment and go to our manager's report.
Actually, tonight I don't have a manager's report. I'll save it to Wednesday.
I'm sorry?
I don't have one tonight. I'll save it till Wednesday.
Wow. That's like a first, right? Is that a first? Oh, second. Oh, right. I think there was one other time you didn't have a report. Okay, very good. Council reports. Does anybody else want to wait until Wednesday? We're good. That's a public meeting. We don't want to, because we're coming to Wednesday anyway.
I do want to say something, yeah.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, the Open Space Committee is having a park walk on Saturday, July 17th at Grove Street Park, starting at 9 a.m. Jim Bossler will be our leader. He's been doing a lot of research, so I think it's going to be a really good walk. Make sure to wear sturdy shoes because sometimes that's very low-lying and it can be wet. And let's see. The Chamber of Commerce is very excited, obviously, about the Pedestrian Plaza being open now on the weekends. And I was involved with chalking, and you can still see some of the artwork that was done despite the rain if you go into the tunnel, the pedestrian tunnel. So people worked really hard at it and had a great time. CBDAC met on July 8th, and Jack Panico of the Panico Salon came and joined us. He's very civic-minded and wanted to know what CBDAC was all about. And we are thinking about approaching newcomers, working more closely with them because new people to town often have a lot to offer and lots of questions. Green Ridgewood met, and that was our first meeting in person here in this building, so that was really heartening. And we are talking already about Earth Day for April 2022. Which we've missed now twice, so we really want it to be great for the upcoming Earth Day and Daffodil Festival. We also spoke about CSAs that are available in Ridgewood, community-supported agriculture. One just opened up at Travell School. You pick up your share of very fresh produce on Thursday afternoons, and there's another one that delivers to people's homes called Flocktown Farms. That's all I have.
Thank you. So it's funny that we missed that Earth Day twice. Nobody even realizes that. Okay, does anyone else want to do their report tonight, or anyone prefer to wait until Wednesday, public meeting? And anything that Councilwoman Perrin added, she can always repeat on Wednesday because it bears repeating. Okay. With that, we're going to go on to our presentation, Budget-Conscious Solutions for Recycling and Solid Waste.
Right. So just before we start, there is one thing I did want to mention. I want to thank everyone who worked on the 4th of July parade. It was a wonderful day, wonderful flag raising, and it was great to have the parade back in town again for the holiday. And I know that many residents lined the streets, and it was just really a wonderful day all around. So thank you to Tara Masterson and Legal Senan, the co-chairs, and everyone else who worked on the parade.
All right, so I guess now I'm compelled to continue that thought. So 4th of July was just amazing this year. I personally think it was one of the best parades we've had ever in the history of our 4th of July parades. The effort that went into this behind the scenes, with not understanding what COVID restrictions would remain in place, the effort was just incredible. The lean in, not just by our 4th of July committee, but our village staff, our village manager, the Ridgewood Police Department, everyone, our entire village staff, big time lean in, and there were many moments where we thought right up until I guess 2 weeks in advance where we weren't even certain that we would have a parade. So for many of us, it was very stressful right up until that moment that we were in the parade and moving forward. So thank you to everyone, Tara Lee, the Ridgewood 4th of July Celebration Committee, and all the village staff, first responders, everyone, and also to my council colleagues, always there, always smiling, always waving, and we really appreciate everyone's participation. This year, usually we have about 128 units. This year we had about 72. It was still an amazing parade, and the crowd was just warm and enthusiastic, and I think truly appreciative. So, thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to presentations. So, I'll have Rich Calby, our Director of Operations, and Sean Hamlin, the Supervisor of Sanitation and Recycling Coordinator, come up. The Village Council, I know, is serious about trying to save money. We have some ideas as to discussion items to decide, what you may want to pursue in order to do so in the areas of sanitation and solid waste. So I know Mr. Calby's trying to get the screens to work. Hopefully they will. That was the one I think that gave us problems the last time. Hopefully this one will work.
You want to turn this one on, Pam?
That one kind of flickered, I don't know. Yeah, that might, there, this one's on. They're all on now. Good. So I just want to thank, before we start, thank Mr. Calby and Mr. Hamlin for their work on this. I'm actually very impressed with what they've come up with as suggestions. We all kind of work together, but and also I want to mention Johanna Luttrell, who has worked for our recycling division for many, many years, that they all work together to produce this PowerPoint and to come up with these ideas. And I just want to say thank you for doing so. Okay. Looks like it's all working, which is great.
Okay, good evening. I have to say I attended the July 4th parade as well, and it was very impressive, especially the grammar schools. Those floats, unbelievable. So like Heather said, Sean, Johanna, and I were tasked with coming up with some ideas of how we could save money in operations, particularly solid waste and recycling. So to do that, we felt it would be appropriate to kind of run through what the division does first, kind of give you an overview of costs, tonnage, things we collect, how we collect them, how many trucks we use, how many people we use, and then kind of get into some ideas or solutions that we think could move forward to save money. Once you realize what we utilize today to get everything done. So with that, I'm going to kind of walk through that first. But before I do that, I have to give credit to Sean and especially to Johanna, who's not here tonight. She helped put together the slideshow. It's very, very impressive.
Thank you.
So before we begin, I want to just briefly go over our mission statement, what the division is responsible for. We service the entire community, over 7,400 households and about 23 apartment complexes. We safely and efficiently collect and dispose of their solid waste and recycling while complying with all local, county, state, and federal requirements. And that's very important because recycling is the law, and how we dispose and collect of our solid waste is governed by many laws as well. So we're going to start first with solid waste and kind of give you an overview of the past 5 years. So here you have a summary of our total tonnages that we've collected over the last 5 years. And there's two main parts to this. There's household trash that is collected either in the rear yard or side yard of the home, and there's bulky waste that is collected at the curbside of the properties. You could see that the volumes of waste are increasing over the years, and with that are the cost to dispose of that waste also. So on average, we're collecting over 8,800 tons of residential garbage. And a good 80% or more of that is household trash, and the other percentage is the bulky waste. But you could see how the cost of that has gone up substantially throughout the years, and we project it to continue along that route moving forward. And that's the result of people generating more, but at the same time, the cost to dispose of it going up. Fuel costs are up, trucking costs are up. The companies that we contract with, the prices continually go up when we bid our 2-year contracts. So we took that data and we looked at what we've gone through already this year and tried to project for next year, moving forward to 2022, and kind of putting everything in perspective for that, knowing that we now have the time to plan for that year. So just on the basis of what our tonnage amounts are so far this year for the first 6 months, we're projecting that for 2022 and for the end of this year that we're again going to see tonnage values that are high on the high end above the average that we've seen in the last 5 years. And that comes with it a very high cost to dispose of, in excess of $700,000 total for both the household trash and bulky waste. So that's a substantial amount for the budget each year. Yes. Mostly the last 2 years. I think COVID might have a little bit to do with it, but at the same time, we're seeing a lot more food waste in the garbage over the last 5 years. The garbage has gotten heavier. I don't know what else to attribute to besides that. But Sean could tell you what he's seen.
Part of what happened in 2020 with the pandemic is when we did the curbside program pickup, people weren't just throwing away their household trash. They were cleaning out. They didn't want to wait for their bulk pickups. We actually canceled bulk for a month, and people were still mixing their stuff in, to get rid of it. And so that was part of 2020. And moving forward with what our projections are planning for is, if we do move forward with some of our budget saving ideas, the same thing could happen if we move forward with especially option 1 or option 3. That would require some policing and involved to
Sean, could I just have you speak up just a little bit, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
That would require some policing to keep that down, but the number is going to go up because the price is going to go up. We're going out to bid again this year. Last year, I think 2019, or 2019, the last time we bid out, it jumped almost 20%. I think when in the last contract we had, we were paying, what, 50?
Yeah, last contract was 60 some odd dollars a change. We're paying right now $80.49 a ton to dispose of solid waste.
So when we go out to bid again, I'm suspecting that it's going to jump again pretty high. And there's proof of that going around if you look at other towns that are trying to buy their garbage back from private companies, and they want to service their own communities because the price for the collection has gone up from private haulers as well because of that.
And certainly stop us along the way if you have questions, please. So now moving on to recycling, telling a little bit different story. Weight-wise, we're kind of status quo, but cost-wise, you'll see the difference. This chart here represents everything that we collect on an annual basis that goes to our material recovery facility. The village contracts with Atlantic Coast Fibers. They're the recovery facility that takes all the recyclables that are collected curbside and at the recycling yard and recycles them and sells them off for other uses. Now, they pay us for certain items. Other items we have to pay for them to dispose of. But mainly those items are picked up either curbside or brought to the recycling center. And this chart kind of lays out the different weights for each of those. Whether it's cardboard that's brought to the recycling center, magazines and newsprint, curbside mixed paper and cardboard, bottles and cans, or otherwise what we call commingle, that's collected curbside or at the recycling center. And then on the occasion when there's not enough trucks on the road, we've had to do a single stream collection. That's where everything goes in the same truck, the cardboard, paper, the bottles and cans. We try to stay away from that as much as possible. But you could see the tonnage story is pretty much stable throughout the 5 years. So in addition to the items that go to Atlantic Coast Fibers, there's also additional items that are picked up at the curb on bulk waste days or that are brought to the recycling center. These items go to various different vendors. It could be metal, textiles like clothing, e-waste like computers, TVs, any electronics, batteries, concrete, tires. You can see the total tonnage for those, again, somewhat consistent. But the bigger story with recycling, and as you all know, the last 5 years, the market has changed drastically. We've gone from making revenue to having to pay to dispose of the recycling. A total swing of about $250,000 between what was made on recycling 5 years ago to what is now paid to dispose of that recycling. So that's the real bigger story when it comes to recycling and the whole operation. But on average, we're marketing and collecting 3,700 tons of bottles, cans, papers, and cardboard. And last year, that cost $61,000 to dispose of. Now, those miscellaneous items, some of them we get money for, some we have to pay for. The biggest revenue generator is metal. So we do like to pick up metal. That does provide a good steady revenue for the village. Textiles, we get paid for the clothing that gets put in the clothing bin. E-waste, we used to have to pay for to dispose of, but once they changed the E-Waste Act, now the manufacturers of the TVs, computers have to pay for that, so that's a net zero cost to the village. Batteries, we do get money for, but we do pay for the bulky items like concrete, tires. But net, overall, the village receives revenue for these miscellaneous items, and that's helped. Looking at projections for recycling, tonnage-wise, pretty much the same. We don't anticipate that changing by very much throughout the years. The average was 37.28. We're projecting 37.48. So pretty steady there. But again, the story there is money with recycling. The good news on the recycling end, we're diverting it from solid waste. With the recycling laws and how we dispose of recycling, even though we're paying for it now, we're saving on the solid waste end. Because if you had to dispose of that tonnage in a landfill, these are the costs that you would have had to pay. So over the course of 5 years, the village saved $1.4 million by recycling. So that's a good story to tell, even though you're netting out paying more on an annual basis now. You're still saving money compared to what the cost is to dispose of waste at the landfill. So now how do we do all this collection, and what does our operation consist of? I'm going to get into the kind of schedules that you all have on your calendars, the methods, how many people, how many trucks, and how we do that operation. We'll start with solid waste again. Solid waste is collected from 12 routes. There's 6 on the east side, 6 on the west side. Each route has approximately 600 to 700 households on the route. That's a rear yard pickup, rear or side yard pickup of the household trash twice a week. And then we have curbside pickup of bulky waste, 20 collections annually, typically twice a month, but on months when there's a holiday, it could sometimes be once a month. Because to make up for the holiday, we have to pick up the trash still twice a week. And then upon special request on an unscheduled date, the department also picks up bulky waste. If someone's moving out and they can't put it out on their scheduled date, they could call and schedule a special pickup, and they pay for that special arrangement to do that.
Rich, what do you charge for that?
It's $150 for the initial pickup of anything under 6 cubic yards. And then after that, there's an additional 100 fee. So it'll be $250 for over 6 yards.
So in addition to that, the division also picks up all the trash cans in the CBD and all the trash from all the village-owned properties, including the water department properties and some of the other towns. Staffing-wise and vehicle-wise, that collection's done with 6 vehicles. Those are 6 vehicles on the road. In addition to that, we do have other vehicles to make up for when the vehicles are off the road, because every week there's at least 1 or 2 vehicles being serviced. But on the road daily are 6 vehicles, 18 full-time and 2 part-time employees to do that side and rear yard collection. They work on average an 8-hour day. They are on task. Some days are lighter, their day is shorter, some days are longer, depending on the amount of volume of trash. Volume, heavy days are particularly after holidays. Like right after this July 4th, there were heavy days for the solid waste division. Central Business District is picked up by 1 vehicle, 1 employee on Saturday and Sunday. They work 6 hours overtime to do that collection. There's just a quick snapshot to give you an idea of where all that garbage goes. This is a picture of one of the landfills in Ohio or Pennsylvania. We take the waste to Garfield, New Jersey, to Interstate Waste. It's a transfer station. It's literally a large warehouse where the trucks are weighed, they're emptied, and then reloaded onto larger trucks that then take a trip out to Pennsylvania, Ohio, and dispose of the waste in a landfill. All of the recyclings, as said earlier, go to Atlantic Coast Fibers, and we're currently bringing to a location in Newark for that recycling. On the recycling side of things, 8 areas, 4 on the east side, 4 on the west side, approximately 900 to 1,050 households for each area. That's curbside pickup of bottles, cans, paper, cardboard, bi-weekly or twice a month. Curbside pickup of appliances, tires, and metal, that bulk pickup. And then in addition to that, disabled residents get special side or rear yard pickup of recycling. And those are requests made to Sean verbally or by phone. He then verifies it by going out to the resident and making sure they indeed meet the requirements for that, and they're put on the list. And then they're picked up rear yard or side yard for the recyclables, so they don't have to bring them out to the curb. In addition, we collect recyclables from all the apartment complexes in the village as well. As you all know, we have the recycling center that is open 5 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., available to all Ridgewood residents and businesses to drop off recycling. That's in addition to the curbside pickups. That's always available. As far as the operation, we have for bottles and cans, 1 vehicle and 2 employees. For pickup of paper and cardboard, it's 2 vehicles and 2 employees. Appliances, tires, and metal, it's 1 truck 4 pickups and 5 employees. They use the smaller pickups depending on the type of items because they need the lift gates to get them up on the truck. The apartments are serviced with 1 vehicle, 1 employee, and then if he has a short day on that route, he goes and helps the cardboard or paper route or the commingle route to get their day done. And then at the drop-off center, we staff it with 2 full-time and 1 part-time person. We have 2 trucks there, 1 roll-off container, 2 compactors, and other various containers for the various materials. And those go in and out on a daily basis depending on when they're filled. So that ends the snapshot of the operation and where the money is and how things are working. Now we're going to get into the ideas. And these are basically solutions that we put forward. And the idea was to evaluate operational changes that would garner money savings and offset the future market increases that we're going to continue to see in recycling and that we can continue to see in solid waste as the cost to dispose of solid waste goes up. And again, these are just discussion items at this point, and they haven't at all been refined. So take the dollar amounts as they may be, but we would like to refine them further. So the first solution we're putting out there is to moving to curbside pickup of solid waste. This would be a change in the operation by shifting from rear yard pickup to curbside. The operational gains for the division here would reduce the number of routes from 12 to 8. It would thereby reduce the number of vehicles on the road from 6 to 4, reducing employee headcount, both full-time and part-time, and reduce the need for the barrels and wheels that are used by the employees to wheel the waste currently from the rear side yard to the truck. The pros to this scenario, the salary and benefit cost savings due to reduced headcount. This will slow our truck replacement process. Currently, we've been replacing a truck a year. We won't need to do that if we move to a curbside pickup because there's less routes. There'll be less fuel and emissions, less truck wear and tear, less employee injuries. The current rear and side yard work is very injury intensive. Savings on equipment, as I said earlier, and reduces trips to the dump for solid waste because now we would fill the trucks up with more based on the number of routes that we're doing. They would be larger, so trucks would pack out quicker.
So I just have a quick question. On the current number of, or what would your estimate be on the number of residents who already bring their trash curbside?
For Sean.
Oh, am I jumping the gun? Is this Sean's moment?
No. I'm not sure what that number is of how many actually bring. It's not a large percentage.
Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's a great question. You know, of course, the con to this is the reducing the service level that you currently have, you know, rear and side yard garbage. Estimated savings in terms of headcount, we're looking at part-time salary reduction of about $50,000, full-time salary and benefit reduction of almost $250,000. That annual capital outlay that's being made for the trucks, we anticipate for the next 5 years, we wouldn't have to buy a new truck. That's a $210,000 savings per year. And the annual outlay for the barrels and wheels is about $1,500 and $1,800 respectively for each of those on an annual basis. In addition to that, but not calculated, the reduction in overtime to go to the dump, fuel, wear and tear savings due to less routes. But we will continue to provide a service to disabled residents that would require that rear side yard service, just like we do in recycling.
Rich,
Yes.
how do you propose, if we went for this solution, how would we reduce the headcount?
Because we'd have less routes, we would need less individuals. Right now we have 6 routes with 3 individuals on each route, a total of 18. We would go down to the...
We'd go down to 8 routes.
8 routes.
And that would bring us down to 14.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let me
Yeah.
ask it a different way. Would you bring the head count down by attrition or by letting people go?
It could be either way. I mean, either way, because I think there's kind of going to be a working period for this, for us to really gauge how it goes. Not that you'd want that to go over years, but you could certainly decide either way, depending on how much you need to save.
Okay.
We made a sub-option to this solution number 1, and that would include adding a paid option to maintain rear side yard service. There's no operational gain here, but the pro is that the resident will have the option to maintain what they currently have. This would provide a revenue stream to help pay for that, because we'd likely have to maintain another individual or another truck just to do this service, depending on how many people subscribe to it. We just threw a number out there of 1,000 households, but I reached out to a similar community that did this about 6 years ago. They have about 3% of their community went with this option once they eliminated rear yard. So in Ridgewood numbers, that would equate to about 240 households that would go with that option. And if you charge that annual basis of $1,500 a year, that would generate $357,000 on that basis.
Rich, how would that work? I mean, how do the guys know which house if there's no garbage in front? They just assume you're doing rear pickup. I mean,
No, I think that we went over this extensively with Heather, and we would definitely need some kind of system, a tablet or something that has the maps laid out of which houses are. And over time, the guys that do the routes every day will just know.
Right.
But the real problem would be tracking who paid and who didn't. There has to be, like every year. That's why we would require it annually, so we don't have to keep every 6 months or every quarter going, did this house pay their bill? Are we still picking up rear yard? If they do it annually, then we know for that year they're going to get service.
And we'd use our existing GIS and then put it on to like iPads, and the workers would have it in the truck with them, and those that were getting rear yard would be highlighted, and then they would know, like Sean said, over time they would know which ones were getting rear yard and which ones were getting curbside.
So I wouldn't want to be the one to add insult to injury over any of this, but so if you're going to charge someone $1,500 to opt in, then is there some savings? Well, I don't think I've seen any savings off your tax bill for the people who opt out.
That's strictly your choice. I mean, you could go either way.
Right. So is
What?
the value of the pickup $1,500? What went into that analysis?
That's a first shot at a number from a discussion with Bob Rooney and Heather. So that that would have to go a little bit deeper based on the number we project would subscribe to it. But I think, getting back to the tax issue, if you do go with this option and go curbside, you're going to save on taxes by reducing the overall budget.
I understand that. Your tax increase won't be...
Right.
Right.
The number that I think we arrived at that number based on the fact that if we do go with this service, and like Rich said, if 3% of the population in the town opts in, then we're going to need to retain staff. And in order to not lose money on retaining the staff, then that's the number that we'd have to go with.
So, I mean, this I guess, makes it that much more important to understand what percentage of those individuals are already doing this, because if you have a very small percentage, like we already bring our trash curbside. We've been doing that for a long time. However, in the absence of that, understanding that percentage, if it's a very small percentage of people who do that, then we would have to believe that a larger percentage of our residents prefer a rear yard pickup and the visual of not having the trash cans lining the street.
Agreed.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay. Switching gears to a totally different solution, bulk waste reduction. We pay a lot to dispose of bulk waste. You saw the numbers earlier on the solid waste chart, the volume that consists of bulk waste that's picked up and has to be disposed of in the garbage, stuff that can't be recycled at all. So the idea here is to change the way we pick up bulk waste today. If I was able to play the video at the bottom there, let me try to see if I could do that. You get an idea of what Sean's operation faces when they pick up bulk waste. He could show you other pictures. On many occasions, people take bulk waste to line the entire curb with everything. So the idea of this solution is to limit that. Move from unlimited piles of rubbish, whether it be couches, carpet, whatever's in the attic or basement, to 7 items per pickup. And anything above that would be a special pickup. That would thereby reduce our volume of waste that we have to dispose of from bulk and generate revenue to pay for anything that's above that, which right now the village is paying for. Essentially people are using bulk waste as an opportunity to, when they move out, dispose of stuff that they should have in a dumpster. So in this situation, we would create a special pickup permit for a cost which hasn't been determined. This will reduce the volume of the waste. We would collect a fee, reduce our trips to the dump, again, thereby reducing fuel emissions, truck wear and tear, and employee injuries. Because when you have to pick up a lot of wet carpets and furniture, it makes for a lot of injuries. Cons here, again, it's reduction in the service you have today. Right now, people could put out whatever they want on those days.
Just as a side note, we also do field a lot of phone calls. There is a real issue because of our unlimited amount of bulk items that you can put out. We have a serious problem with people that allow their families to bring bulk from other towns and say, hey, tomorrow's bulk day, load up the van and bring your stuff over and put it out on our curb. So a lot of it isn't generated from this town.
Our third solution is to convert our commingle pickup of bottles and cans to a fully automated side loader. Right now, we have 2 individuals on the truck picking up the barrels and dumping them into the back of the truck. This would be a one-armed bandit, a robotic arm that would pick up the can and dump it into the truck. So this would result in a reduction of 1 employee for the pickup. Again, would help with fuel emissions, truck wear and tear, employee injuries because employees would not be touching the barrels. The mechanism would do the pickup itself. The cons here, though, are the purchase of the equipment. Our trucks that we have currently don't have the ability to do this. We don't have the cans that are needed to do this. So you'd have to make the investment for that up front to make this work. If you move to a curbside solid waste pickup, this is another option you could consider as well, down the line to even further reduce the cost because it would reduce the amount of employees by half again.
I just wanted to mention about the employee injuries. They walk somewhere around 10 miles a day, 8 to 10 miles a day.
Between 12 and 14.
Okay.
Depending on if we have a full crew or not.
Very difficult on the back knees. Sean was saying to me, I think there were 2 knee replacements, and
We have 2 guys out on knee replacements right now, and 1 guy is going for an ACL operation next Monday in recycling.
so it is a reality.
And yeah,
every year.
and we have another guy in sanitation that has a bulging disc in his back. He's been out since February.
But is that necessarily job-related? I mean, people walk, they lift, they do things every
Oh,
day.
he was walking, and it was a wet day out, and he was lifting a barrel, and he lost his footing, and that's what happens, and it was something.
I'm not saying it's not, but
Right.
necessarily, people do walk
Mhm.
a lot every day. The mailman walks, people walk, their jobs require them to walk. We have other employees that require walking. A lot of jobs
Absolutely, I agree with that,
require
but there's
physical exertion.
Yeah, but there's a lot of places that the sanitation department goes, like, you see some of the driveways that they go up, and they're carrying, 85 pounds of
Right.
garbage on their shoulder because they have to squeeze in between the bushes and the vehicle, trying not to cause any damage to the
weight on
vehicle.
these,
Yeah.
Some other ideas to consider, but, not fully worked out. As I mentioned, converting curbside solid waste pickup to fully automated side loader. We believe this would further reduce the staff, with further savings, probably another $500,000 or more in salary and wage. And then food waste. We're evaluating this currently with our pilot. We believe food waste will save at least 20% of our tonnage in the future. That could generate about $100,000 or more per year savings, but we haven't yet flushed out how we would dispose of it. If we could bring it here locally and save money, or if we'd have to ship it by truck to an outside vendor to dispose of, so that cost would have to offset some of those savings. So that was pretty much our kind of overview and, quick solutions. We just wanted to start the conversation. Heather asked us to come up with some ideas. So we're happy to answer any of the questions and certainly come back to refine this and look at any of the ideas that we presented in more detail if you want us to.
So I have actually two items. I would like to have our staff on over the next whatever designated amount of time, period of time, as they're out collecting, at least do some analysis or feedback as to that percentage of people that are already doing this. My other question is, and if we go back to that first slide, I think it was the amount of food waste that has significantly increased. Is that my recollection?
The total tonnage.
Yeah, is increased. The piece I feel like is kind of missing from this is the educational aspect to people, because for the life of me, I can't imagine that this amount of food is being wasted on a regular basis. I find it to be shocking in today's world, in today's environment, that maybe we need a piece that's educational, because if I see that, and I honestly believe that we have no waste in my house, no food waste in my house. But I think when people really wrap their head around that, and I would love to see that number parsed out to per household.
That's kind of what we're doing with our food waste pilot program. And, we've gotten some really interesting data that's starting to come in now that it's been running for a while, and it's staggering.
So I wonder if not going out into the community and saying, well, this is information that you should be taking in and no pun intended, digesting and understanding what it is, because maybe it's also time to change people's habits.
That's what we've been trying to do. That's
Yeah.
when we proposed the idea at Earth Day 2 years ago. That was what we were presenting then, and I think that when we come back to Earth Day next year, we should really expand on that thought.
And the other thing, I'm concerned with the bulk day, because, neighbors do neighborly things. And so if I have too much bulk, I could call Councilwoman Walsh 2 doors down from me. She's not really, but I could say, hey, Bernie, can I just throw some stuff out in front of you? So there's workarounds that you just spread your stuff across the street, and who knows? There's no way to really monitor that. And
But if it's limited to 7 items, and I wish we could have played the video for you that we had on our presentation. And those are the things that we're talking about. It's some days where and we see it every year around graduation time when people run for the hills when their kids graduate high school and they don't want to, live in the community anymore, and they throw away everything they've collected over the last 12 years and move into a condo. And those are the things. And then also, we have a lot of people who are contractors that live in town, and they bring their work home and they put it on the curb. There's scrap stuff, toilets, the plumbers' toilets, stuff like that. Ceramic tiles that they do when they do demo work. We're paying for that.
But if we ever put, my husband's a contractor, so I know, if we ever put anything out,
Could I just have you speak into the
take
microphone, please? We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. If the garbage men see that, why don't they just leave it on the curb?
Because there's some language miscommunication in between the contract that we have and the calendar that we have. In the calendar, it says that we don't collect it. And I'm sorry, in the contract it says we don't collect it, but then in the calendar it says that we can take up to a certain amount as long as it's in a 32-gallon barrel and it's within weight specifics. But
so can we change
so
that on the
because
calendar? Starting next
so
year.
kind of because of that, and they know that the residents that they are residents right now. They just kind of take it because you don't want to. They look at it like we're working for the taxpayers and we're going to take their stuff because we value our jobs.
Right. If somebody's working on their own house, and
Right.
throwing that away, that's allowed, correct?
In small amounts. Again, we can't, there are people that, you see, they have when they do work on the house, they'll have a 40-yard container in their driveway for about 2 months. And then after the container is gone, then the barrels start coming out. And as long as it's within a reasonable amount and it's not too heavy, the guys will take it. But I think that there are circumstances where we've gotten calls from from neighbors, anonymous calls saying, I saw people bringing truckloads of stuff over from out of town to put in front of my neighbor's house. But we don't get that message until after it's all done. And, who can prove it if they did, and when we just end up taking it.
Okay.
And if you go to other towns, they're dealing with the same thing. And forget what town it was that went through this, and they limited their bulk pickup, and the mayor actually put out a statement saying that if you had this is going to go into effect in July of this year, so if you have any bulk to get rid of it now because the free-for-all ends. That was her statement, her actual public statement.
And keep in mind, the 7 items could be 7 barrels. It could be 1 table and 6 chairs. But you have it normally twice a month. So usually, most people will be able to get out their bulk waste with those pickups. Because, every once in a while, sure, if you're moving out of the house, you may have more. But then that's when you ask for the special pickup. But I think that it would probably work fairly well. Maybe we could make it 8 items, but, we're trying to keep it lower because that will result in some cost savings. And again, some people put out nothing, right? Some people may put out once or twice a year. So, it all evens out, but I think that when he gets this video, what it showed was the entire driveway was lined with garbage bags.
Another thing you have to keep into perspective is that we're not talking about the recyclable material, just the solid waste stuff, like metal, refrigerators, ovens, stuff like that. That doesn't count towards your 7 items. That you can put out as much as you want. That's revenue. So we're not going to change it. It just has to be separated from your 7 items, and we can still take it. So you can get away with putting out more. It's just that we don't want all of the solid waste. And a bunch of it, this particular video, someone threw out, most of the bags were clothes that their kids had collected. Here's the video.
Oh, they're moving. Is that a moving sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we got that in the video, but this is what, around this time, we've been getting, our tonnage, if you look from June and July, has been,
So this was bulk day?
yes,
And so the bulk day, everything was in garbage bags like that?
yeah.
So that's one house, and there are
that-
multiple houses.
Another
like
thing
this.
that happens that you deal with in this town when we have bulk night is we couldn't really get into high definition in this video, but if I showed you on the guy's phone who took it, the junkers that come in those bags were all ripped open and everything was all over the ground. It took them almost an hour to collect that.
Wow. And don't the junk people, they look for metal, right? So did
Yeah,
they take a lot of metal?
but they look through the bags too. They just open up the bags and they dump everything out, and they go through it, they pick through it, and then there's a mess left behind that we end up cleaning up.
Can people drop metal off at the recycling center?
Yes,
They can, okay.
we do right now. Currently, any gas powered equipment has to be brought to the recycling center. We used to collect it off the curb, but as Susan knows very well, because it happened on her street, we have a lot of truck fires because of them, because they're not always empty.
In front of my house.
Right in front of her
Quite
house.
the moment. Go ahead.
Can't get a word in edgewise.
I know, we're like, well, like, this is like the most exciting conversation we've had so far this year, right?
So the good news is that during the budget period, we asked you to come up with these solutions. So I was like really happy to see all this. And I think that because we asked, we have to consider one of these options, because I think the public is waiting for us to, it's gonna, like Susan said, education. We'll talk about composting. We'll talk about, maybe you can have your recycles picked up, and then the second pickup you have to bring down to the recycle center. So there's got to be like a happy medium, and it is going to hurt, but I think that we asked in the budget sessions to do this, and I think you made some great suggestions. So I think really, I think the easiest way to start is the recycle, whether it be the one-arm bandit or, like I said, maybe having people, you get one recycle, and then depending on the calendar, every other one is you have to bring it down. So then you eliminate all of that walking, you eliminate the time, you can do other, pickups or other bulk pickups with that other type of process that you have. So, I mean, I know that a lot of people are hesitant to have the garbage pails at the end of their driveway, but I see it in most towns, and because it is so quick, the bandit goes through and picks and dumps and picks and dumps and picks and dumps, and they do it so much quicker that, it isn't that long on the end of the driveway, let's put it that way. So
Right. The other thing about recycling is if we, like I said, we'd start with the commingled, because we could start slow with that, and
Yep.
we could start doing it area by area and seeing how it works. But if we get to the fibers part of it, one of the biggest problems with our fibers pickup is the rain. These last couple of weeks, we've lost a lot of money because of wet cardboard and paper,
Yeah.
and we're not getting that revenue. We're spending money to get rid of it,
Yeah.
and the keeping it dry is the most important thing.
Yeah, but I think so. So and I don't see it in here. You talk about picking it up, but and the food waste. Like Susan was mentioning, if there's an we did it several years. I can't even remember the year we did the composting where we were selling the mini composters. I mean, I have a compost in my backyard that's basically we made it and just gets. But for people that are new to it, you can buy the little rolly ones, or you can teach people how to do a compost in their back, yard. Because once people get into the habit, they'll do it, and the food waste can go out there, everything, and then they start thinking about what they're eating and what they're wasting and what they're doing, because they see it. Once you start seeing it over and over again, when you throw it in a black garbage bag, it's like it didn't exist. So the behavior change has to be.
We do have some ideas on expanding the food pilot program, but that's kind of a little bit of ways down the road. But that is something that I think we should, discuss,
Yeah.
at
But
the
if
end of
we-
the pilot program, when you see the numbers
Yeah.
of the stuff that we're pulling out, that people are bringing down, I think you'll be, and if we can expand that to all of the households
Yeah.
and find a way to make it cost effective, then we're going to be in really good shape.
But maybe that should be it, baby steps of, let's pick 2 things that we can do that, there has to be a buy-in by the residents and do a trial run, just like you did the food trial. But I think there has to be something, because we made the commitment in the budget, and you guys are making the commitment now to us. So I think we have to, pick something that we're going to,
Well, we have to do something that's within our ability, because
Yeah.
why didn't we, I know we looked at the one-armed bandit a couple of years ago, right? Did we have a conversation about that
We did.
vehicle?
Yeah.
And then we didn't do it, was it because the cost, we had to actually supply the pails to the residents, and that was a
that's the
significant
barrel.
cost and with the vehicle?
Yeah.
And it's also all new trucks,
I'm sorry?
all new trucks with the
Right,
one-armed
you're requiring
bandit,
all
and
new
they're
trucks.
expensive as well, more expensive than our garbage trucks,
Right.
so.
Yeah, the high number on those trucks are about 350,000.
And then, of course, the fear of something going wrong, and then when something goes wrong, it's just like that other one that we had all the problems with. So it's just mechanical, and something could go wrong. Did you have something?
I can see phasing in all of these solutions over time. I would put the one-armed bandit last because of the economic situation that we're in. And there's another idea that I read about in the League of Municipalities magazine, that you charge people according to the weight of, or the number of cans they put out. So the people who don't generate a lot of garbage, they're not subsidizing the people who do. And I'm sure you considered that, and you've rejected it for some reason, so I am curious as to why you decided against that.
We did consider it, but in the end, I thought just for this presentation, we'd start kind of slow. so we don't, but those are the things that, moving forward, the next steps, and over time, we can refine this and talk about those things. But I don't want to keep you guys here all night, because there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of ways that these things can go, especially with the food program.
So we can discuss this further too, like in next month's meeting at the work session. And, maybe you could choose amongst you, which one or two you'd like to pursue for next year. And then we could, delve into it further.
Thank you so much. And
You're
for the
very
pilot
welcome.
program. The food composting is really an eye-opener. We're pretty minimal waste in my household, especially since we have a dog who takes up the slack. And my food waste is still a third to 50% of the weight of our garbage.
So I thought I had one. Oh, I just did want to ask, the junkers, what were they called? The people that come and rip open the bags?
Yeah.
Scrappers. So do they at all help, or are they a hindrance? Do they create more problems than...
No, they create nothing but problems.
So are they actually creating then more work?
They are, but they're also taking as well, from our revenue, because some of them are metal scrappers. But,
right, so they're cherry picking the cream, what is good that they can go
Right.
in and make money on, and then they're leaving us with a mess. So I'm just wondering, can we establish anything that says they're not permitted to take our stuff? Because I thought that you could. I always thought that when cans were in the recycling bucket or on the curbside, I actually always thought that you weren't allowed to take those cans and go bring them to Walmart and put them in the machine yourself. I thought you couldn't. You weren't allowed
That's
to do that
correct.
because that
That's
was
correct.
stealing
Yeah,
from
We
the
do have
municipality.
ordinances.
it is.
There's a matter
It
of
is illegal,
enforcement.
and if the
So
police
is
see
that
them
the
doing
same-
it, they should
in
be
the same
taking it.
vein?
Yes, we would have to enforce, is what we would have to do.
You could probably restrict it in certain levels, not necessarily all access, but certain parts of it. But again, the enforcement on it is going to be, if you place it either with the police department or, recycling or somebody else. I mean, it's really, it happens at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. They're out there with flashlights. You see them all the time. So enforcement of it's going to be very difficult. But it certainly is a look, something to look at. So.
Right, because if they're leaving a mess, and they're taking the best, and that's actually, I always thought that was like a theft. Is it technically a theft?
I don't know that it's a theft. It's more of a,
For the recyclables, yes, because
It is a
it's
theft on
taking
recyclables, right.
revenue
I'm talking
from
about,
us.
I was thinking, you were talking about the bags and the clothes.
Yeah, no, the bags of clothes. Look, there are some people out there that are really doing it for the need of doing it. That can't afford. Some of them, they come and they pick things out and they go to homeless shelters and stuff like that, and I'm all for that. I don't want to. I just don't want I don't want to have to clean up the mess.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll just continue to work on this, but I think it would help to have a little bit more information from the field that helps us better determine how best to proceed.
Okay, over the next couple of weeks, I'll have my drivers kind of just give me I don't know if they're going to be able to count every house, but they can give me it's kind of and I can ride around and, kind of make that assessment myself if I ride around through the routes and see the cans that are there.
Can I ask him? Oh, sorry.
And then maybe in addition, so the next time we look at this, maybe we could have some at least rough draft on what kind of an educational postcard mechanism, informational, that we could put out into the world to say, this is, what cost this is. I mean, I just think the food waste piece is so, if people realize how much they waste, maybe they would rethink and behave their behavior. So go ahead.
Just a question. So you have 6 vehicles, 6 trucks?
We have 6 vehicles that go out for service every day, that go out and service the residents every day. But then we have extra vehicles, and we have about 3 extra vehicles or 4 extra vehicles in solid waste that are backup trucks for when those trucks are down.
And are they staggered in years? I mean, I'm just wondering, in the next couple of years, were you thinking that we needed to replace any of these or any?
Yeah, those would be the crane carriers that we still have 7 crane carriers that need to be replaced. So if we went to the curbside pickup, if that was our first option, and we went to 4 trucks instead of 6 that service, then we could surplus those trucks, the crane carriers. We wouldn't need them anymore. Okay. And then it would stop us from having to buy the trucks for the next 5 years.
Okay. And then after 5 years, maybe then if you needed a truck, I'm thinking if we're purchasing new ones, we might as well start with the one-armed bandit. I mean, you don't want to buy them before you need them, but
right.
It might be a good idea to have it in everybody's mind that when a truck goes down and you need one, we might think about replacing it with the one-armed bandit.
Yeah, we put it forward with the recycling idea because right now that is a 1-truck route with 2 people. So we felt even though that one would cost more in the beginning, it would be the best test because it wouldn't affect much of anything. It would still be picked up the same way, and we could test out the process and see if it works.
Yeah, because everybody brings the recycle to the street anyhow.
Yes.
So it'd just be in the bin. So it'd just be the,
And in the recycling department, there is a need to purchase a new truck next year, so that would be, that would be the time to consider it.
Thank you again.
You're very welcome.
All right, our first discussion item is Ridgewood Water. Ridgewood Water has determined it's in need of roof repairs at various locations. They obtained 3 quotes. This is the 4th year of continuing these improvements, with 11 roof structures improved in 2018, 8 improved in 2019, 2 improved in 2020, and 4 scheduled for 2021. The quotes, the lowest quote was $39,800 from American Construction Chimney and Roofing Specialist out of Cliffside Park, New Jersey. The funding is in the water utility capital budget.
Mayor Knudsen had to step away for a few minutes, so
Okay.
questions or comments on this?
Okay. I'll move on to the next one. It's a 2021 Ford Escape purchase. It's for the departments of the GIS division for field work, including GPS inventory of assets, Esri collection, and field verification of asset locations. This vehicle will replace a 2007 Ford Taurus, which is in need of extensive repairs. There were 3 quotes that were solicited. The low quote was $27,498 from Route 23 Auto Mall of Butler, New Jersey, and the funding is in the Water Capital Utility budget.
My question is, did you consider getting a Ford Escape hybrid?
We'll give Rich a second to get back to our microphone.
Run, Rich, run.
The answer is no, we didn't. Does Ford Escape still make hybrids?
Yeah, they do.
They do?
I Googled it.
No, we didn't look into that.
Okay. Could you?
We could, certainly.
In the future, sure.
I have a question about that. So it's doing, is there anything related to GIS? Is there any special features in these vehicles that you can, like, you know how you have CarPlay, is there anything that you can connect in to?
Actually, this Ford Escape comes with a mobile hotspot.
Okay.
We'd have to subscribe to the service, but that could help with our field collection.
Yeah.
It's just a side benefit. We actually didn't pick it for that. We picked it because it's the cheapest vehicle, available.
Yeah.
But for what they do require a lot of connectivity because we're collecting assets, and they want to do it live, so it updates the map automatically.
Yeah, that might make sense. Yep.
The next item is award of contract for water testing laboratory cabinetry and countertops. This is under state contract to Longo Associates of Ramsey, New Jersey, not to exceed $57,496.67. Funding is from the water capital budget. This is for the new Ridgewood Water headquarters.
Any questions, anyone? Comments? Moving on.
Okay, the next item is award of contract for an emergency generator, also under state contract, and this is to Foley Power Systems of Piscataway, New Jersey, in an amount not to exceed $135,093. This includes installation and fuel. Again, from the water capital budget. This actually will be shared with the Ridgewood Public Library.
So I have a question on this. That's the cost of the actual, just the generator. So, go ahead. So,
Yeah, it's a little bit more than just the generator itself. It's to bring the crane to lift it onto the platform and then to hook it up to the wires that are being provisioned by the contractor at the building.
and then in terms of the shared service with the library, is that from their end, they're doing all those details through, is that correct?
We're providing them a conduit to the side of the building. They'll then be required to hire their own electrician and connect into the generator.
Okay. And so, do you know what the remainder of the cost will be for that generator, for any other, the ancillary work?
For library,
No, for our end.
there would be no, beyond this, there won't be any other costs. They're already in the contract for the renovation. The electrician, that's the subcontractor on the renovation job, has to run all the wiring, put in the automatic transfer switch, but he's not buying the generator and then starting it up and making all the connections at the engine. We're doing that.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Is this, it's outdoors, right?
Yes,
And is it between the two buildings?
yes,
Is the enclosure locked?
yes.
Does it have a roof or not?
No, it comes in a metal sound attenuation enclosure, and there's doors on each side that have locks that allow you to access the interior where the engine is and the controls. Yep.
Okay.
So just to Councilman Perrin's point, I think it's technically, it's on the water department property. It's not technically, like, it's on that property, not the,
It'll be on the village property in that alley,
right.
well, between the library and the fence of the water property.
So, but the connection will be run over to the library, so that's the shared piece of it. So if the library, so they'll always have their emergency generator. Okay. I don't know if that was helpful.
No, I was more concerned about vandalism.
It'll be elevated significantly in the air as well, for flooding reasons. It's going to be sitting on a platform elevated. And there'll be cameras on the new building as well, so.
Hope they're good cameras.
And someone's there 24 hours a day, so there's some additional benefits to the water building being there.
Okay. The next item is awarding contract under a state contract for a 2021 Western Star Tandem axle dump truck for the distribution division. This is from Hudson County Motors, Secaucus, New Jersey, in an amount not to exceed $154,883. And then there's the removal and reinstallation of the existing stainless steel body from Cliffside Body Corporation of Fairview, New Jersey, not to exceed $5,930. The previous vehicle was removed from service due to a twisted chassis, and it will update the equipment fleet to better service the customer base while complying with the latest environmental and safety standards. Yeah, the funding, again, is from the water utility capital budget.
Okay. Any questions?
I'm not understanding why we need to remove and then reinstall the existing stainless steel body.
So
I just don't get it.
Sure. The actual truck that the body sits on is no longer usable. The whole frame of the body twisted. In 2016, Mayor Knutson may remember, we did an emergency purchase at that time to buy a used vehicle to replace this because it couldn't be used. It was tagged off the road and locked. We were going to surplus it and just get it off the books, but it was determined that the bed of the truck, the stainless steel bed, was worth reusing. So we decided to buy a new truck to place it on and put it in service, and we certainly can use it with all the water main work that we're doing at this point in time. So.
Okay, I get it.
Okay. The next item is awarding a non-fair and open contract for professional services for PFAS treatment designs at various Ridgewood water facilities. This is the final design of Wharton Dyke, Prospect, Cedar Hill, and Ames, and beginning the preliminary design for East Side, West End, East Ridgewood, Main, and Mountain. The final design phases include construction documents, but the project bidding, construction, administration, and inspection will be procured separately. The recommendation is to award it to Mott McDonald of Island, New Jersey, not to exceed $1,598,800. Funding for the project is in the water utility capital budget. We have had Mott McDonald on many Ridgewood water projects, and that is why they're being recommended for this particular project.
Any questions on this? Yeah.
Okay.
It's a big
Okay.
ticket item, but I
Yeah.
can see why it's necessary.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to parking. The 24-hour parking spaces, it was a pilot program from May 1st through July 31st. We're coming up to the end of it. We have sold 6 of them, 4 in May and 2 in June. My question is, does the council wish to continue for the next 3 months from August 1st to October 31st?
Where were those spots?
Mostly in the train station.
So, how many did we sell?
6.
6. So why would we not continue to do so?
It's fine with me, it's just we had done it as a pilot, so I wanted to find out if you wanted to continue.
If we're selling them, I mean, we're selling them. So, I mean, whether it's 6 or
Money's
10,
money.
it's
We'll
money is
take
money.
anything.
So I think we should just continue and
I think that some people may be going back to work, and so there will be some additional use at the train station, maybe come September, October. But, I still think there would be enough for 4 or 5 spaces in the train station. So did you want to continue it to October 31st, or did you want to go all the way to December 31st?
I'd say go till December 31st, and then
Okay.
we start anew.
Okay, so obviously
Just
the
maybe
price,
everyone
I
else
agree,
agree.
December.
okay, to December, and the price will be greater, but that's okay.
Right.
We'll figure out what it is based on the 3-month and increase it from there. Okay, so everyone is in agreement, correct? Okay, thank you. The next one is the Kingsbridge Lane pedestrian bridge under budget. The Kingsbridge Lane pedestrian bridge is over the Saddle River to East Saddle River Road, and it's been closed due to concerns of structural failure. The bridge is used by residents to cross the Saddle River in their neighborhood. Chris Rudishauser and Yvonne Mahenzik met on site with a representative from Contact Engineered Solutions of Parlin, New Jersey. They manufacture the pedestrian and vehicular steel truss bridges similar to the existing pedestrian bridge. They provided the bridge built over the dam at Habernickel Park, actually. The location of the pedestrian bridge is difficult due to the fact that it has a number of overhead wires, which limits crane access. Also, it crosses the largest river in the village. The current pedestrian bridge also is not ADA compliant. They, Contact, can design and manufacture a suitable replacement bridge utilizing weathering steel like the current bridge, and it will include structural drawings signed and sealed by a New Jersey licensed professional engineer, and it would be ADA compliant. The bridge would be factory manufactured, delivered in one piece, and then installed. Contact would take approximately 20 weeks to design and construct a replacement bridge. And this is based on the current availability of steel. It could be longer if steel, takes longer to get. The new bridge would take 1 to 2 days to install. The preliminary cost estimate is a range of $325,000 to $375,000 for the new bridge manufactured, delivered, and installed. The existing bridge footings would be used as much as possible to reduce the costs. NJDEP permits will be required. Several trees may need to be removed for access, and utility line de-energizing will need to be coordinated with PSE&G. We have heard from the residents that the current bridge is a vital pedestrian link in the area. Although we were hopeful this could be an extraordinary unspecifiable service or an EUS, unfortunately it's not, and we would have to go out to bid if the village council is in agreement to replace the bridge.
So I have questions, so I don't know if Chris can come on up.
Sure.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hello. So first, we'll start by saying it is one of the most beautiful spots in the village. That it's a magnificent location. But why can't, we were over there today taking a look, photographing. So what are the conditions of the bridge that it can't be repaired? And then I guess twofold, two questions. The last time it was repaired once before. What were those repairs? And then why can't this be repaired now? And did we get anybody to come in and look at whether or not it can be repaired and estimates on that?
Well, I don't know when the bridge was repaired last. It was before my time. I've been here with the village almost 19 years. I believe it may have had some damage to it during the Hurricane Floyd weather event. That predates my time in the village. As for repair, the underside of the bridge, all the girders, beams, and supporting infrastructure is rotted. There are holes rotted right through the bridge right now. We did discuss that with Contact, and they said, forget about it, because the side rails might still be acceptable or suitable, then you would have to redeck it. However, as Heather said, the current bridge is not ADA compliant. The slope and approaches are too steep, and on the Saddle River, on the East Saddle River Road side, there isn't a ramps system to enable a disabled individual, say in a wheelchair, to wheel themselves down to the sidewalk street elevation. There's only a set of stairs.
Is there a sidewalk along that side of East Saddle River Road?
Not really, but there could be one day.
So I'm asking because if somebody's going to go over in a wheelchair and then take a ramp, then their only option then is, there. I don't believe there's a sidewalk there at all.
There isn't a sidewalk there. That can be in the future, but that condition would not relieve the village from providing an ADA compliant structure.
Right, understood. And then, well, I guess we'd have no way of knowing how many pedestrians actually use the bridge. We do know, I know there was a suggestion that students use the bridge to access bus transportation, but the bus route is on both sides of East and West. So I don't think that that's a factor.
I did send an email to the Board of Ed superintendent advising him that the bridge is closed, and I also sent that same email to the supervisor of busing. A resident right by the bridge was kind enough to give me that individual's email, so I forward that information to them so they are aware of it in their planning for the coming school year.
Right, but the bus route is on both sides of East and West. Yeah.
That I'm not 100% certain of. I can't say.
So, Chris, the question that I have is there like a height requirement because of the flooding? So Floyd obviously came through, and for all those of us that were here and watched Floyd, it was crazy. But does that impact the ADA accessibility? Because how high does it have to be? Like, if we're building a new bridge, is there a new height so that the flow can go underneath it? You know what I mean?
The
like,
part of the permitting we have to do with the Department of Environmental Protection is determine with them what height they want the bridge at for the throughput or the barrel,
right,
and what capacity that barrel has to have. Generally, you're looking at 100-year flood plus 1 foot. We'll see what they want. That may dictate raising it slightly, and then, of course, lengthening out the approaches from either end to provide a ADA compliant approach.
Right, because that would be the only thing I would think, that if you pitch it higher, then you have to stretch it out, and then where does it stretch to? Does it stretch to this new sidewalk that would have to be built? And
yeah,
so,
we'd have to do some sidewalk work.
Yeah.
The current bridge has a nice arch to it.
Yeah.
It's such a steep arch that, again, it's not considered ADA compliant. It's too steep, as are the approaches. Yeah. So in going to a new bridge, that would be flattened out.
Okay. All right. That's the only question I had.
Is that a county road?
East Saddle River is,
Yeah.
but it's our bridge.
Can the county be brought in for any of this?
Doubtful. The county owns the majority of the bridges in the village. The village is very, very fortunate. We only have, I believe, 3 bridges we are responsible for, and a 4th one belongs to the high school. All the bridges, like on East Ridgewood Avenue over the Saddle River, over the Hohokus Brook, they're all the counties. And like on Spring Ave, over the Hohokus Brook, Grove Street over the Hohokus Brook, those are all county bridges. I consider that a great success story for the village. And the reason I say that is the county will be replacing the East Ridgewood Avenue Bridge in the coming years. That's going to be a significant challenge because that bridge is also a historic bridge. So how they will reconstruct it in a historic manner or context while maintaining traffic and providing for a new bridge, that's going to be very interesting. Stay tuned.
But I guess your question is whether or not...
You don't even have an obligation.
I heard you. I got it. Question was, I think what Pam is asking, did you feel your question was answered? Because I think you're asking whether or not the county can participate in that repair.
I can forward an inquiry to the county engineer's office.
But it's not their bridge. They're
Not
not
their
responsible
bridge.
because it's just a pedestrian footbridge,
Yeah,
technically.
it's a pedestrian footbridge. It belongs to the village. I can ask the county. I know what the answer will likely be, but let me get that answer for you.
What about the sidewalk part of it? Can they provide the sidewalk?
The county on county roads is only concerned from the face of curb to face of curb. Everything behind the face of curb, they leave to us. For example, I recently discussed with you folks putting sidewalks on West Glen. That is a county road. That's going to be a project funded by the village.
Okay.
Is the price inclusive of any sidewalk work?
That's a rough estimate. It depends. The final estimate will be very much predicated on, as we just discussed, how high the bridge has to be, what kind of through barrel it needs for the water, and then how the approaches would be built.
Okay. Can we put this out for an RFP? And I mean, you've only gotten one bid.
It has
correct?
to be. It has to be. put
Oh,
out.
it has to.
Heather and I discussed this earlier today. I'm going to try to create a design bid package and hope to get that out on the street probably by the end of August, and then we'll see what kind of results we'll get out of it. We're going to go the design bid route, again, in the interest of compressing the time frame for this. The traditional methodology would be hire a consulting engineer, have them prepare plans and specifications for a bridge, then bid it to a contractor that'll subcontract out to a manufacturer, such as Contech, to manufacture the bridge that they then would install.
Right now, because of COVID, I know prices are so high. Does it make any sense? I mean, go out to bid, yes, but, you know, would it be the end of the world if we waited a year and see if the prices came down?
We may be forced to that decision because of steel supply. I just spoke today with the vendor who's replacing our waste oil tank. His manufacturer of a steel replacement tank said 40 weeks. He's going to try to push it to get it in half that time. That's still 20 weeks. Steel availability is going to be the very, very large variable, as well as a very large cost variable for this bridge.
Okay.
That's why I can't make any promises, or anyone can make any promises to you folks on the council or anyone else as to when we could have a replacement bridge up in place and ready to open for the public.
I'd really like to hear from people that use the bridge, like see how frequently it's used to justify this cost.
I just have one last question about the footings. The existing footings, does it make sense to put in a brand-new bridge and then try to rehabilitate footings? Does that make, I mean, to you as an engineer, does that make a heck of a lot of sense, or does it make sense to get pricing both ways?
It makes sense to reuse the existing footings if we can, mostly for a number of reasons. Permitted-wise with the DEP, because the Saddle River in that area is considered a trout maintenance stream, so that's going to have a high, very stringent criteria and how clean the work is performed. If the current footings are satisfactory to bear the weight of the new bridge and its anticipated load, that can be a considerable cost savings to the village. The other thing that has to be borne in mind is this is a pedestrian bridge. No vehicles will have access over it. So you're going to have a heck of a lot of people all at once on that bridge to really put any kind of appreciable load on those footings.
All right.
Okay, so I guess he'll prepare the design build and, you know, as he said, get it out sometime by the end of August, and we'll see what we get. As he indicated, steel is very high now, so we might be surprised by the price.
Yeah.
Okay. The next item is awarding year 2 of a 2-year contract for furnishing, delivering, and maintenance of emergency equipment, radios, vehicle computer systems, and other listed patrol equipment for police, fire, and emergency services. We did receive bids on this last year. The sole bidder was Regional Communications of Paramus, New Jersey. They have successfully completed the year of the contract, and they said they would hold their prices for a second year. Therefore, the recommendation is to award the contract to, second year of a 2-year contract to Regional Communications, Inc. of Paramus, New Jersey, in an amount not to exceed $47,000 total. Each of these divisions, police, fire, emergency services, will pay towards their share of what they use.
Questions, anyone?
Okay. The next one is awarding a capital account purchase, which is a washer, commercial washer and dryer for the fire department. The current washing machine is 23 years old, and it's not OSHA compliant. 3 quotes were received. The lowest quote is from Super Laundry of Carlstadt, New Jersey, in the amount to exceed $22,940. The memo is incorrect. The resolution is actually correct. And this is in the fire department's 2021 capital account.
No questions? Moving on.
Okay, the next one is, the intent of a bid was to obtain prices by public bid for body shop services for the repair of village vehicles and equipment. The village received no bids, so we will bid out the work again, hoping for better results.
Don't we repair our own vehicles?
We do repair our vehicles, we do not do body work. So when a vehicle's been in an accident or dinged up, we don't have the ability to do that, particularly also with, we don't have a paint booth, and that's a critical component.
Thank you.
The next item is, a request has been received to release the residual amounts of escrow funds for the Benjamin at 9-27 Franklin Avenue. The work there has been substantially complete, and their escrowed funds, total amount is $64,847.46. And in addition, the performance bond will also be released. The above values will be subject to a final audit by the Finance Department.
Any questions?
So Heather, I have a question, and just
Okay.
kind of a reminder when we talked about the budget again, that the assessor is working on fully assessing this so that as of October 1st,
Right.
it'll be, okay, thanks.
Correct. The next one is a professional services contract for land surveying for the Green Acres diversion. So 3 properties need to be surveyed, which is the Hammond Road, Marlborough Road properties, and then also the South Broad Street property where the diversion took place. The survey work has to be prepared in accordance with Green Acres requirements. The recommendation is to award each parcel's work to Dunn Surveying and Mapping, PA of Waldwick, New Jersey, in an amount not to exceed $13,370, which is for all 3 surveys, and each one will be done individually. The village has used this surveyor for the past 20 years.
I think in the resolution that's proposed, there's just a typographical error. Where it says divergence, it should say diversion.
Right. We'll change it. Thank you. The next item is the award of a lease for 1057 Hillcrest Road, the Gatehouse. June 16th, the proposals were received. There was 1 registered request for proposals and 1 proposal package. Health Barn USA was the only response we received. Their bid package was complete with all the required and correct forms. This, I believe, has to be sent to NJDEP Green Acres for their approval prior to the Village Council adopting a resolution to approve the lease. My understanding is there is no hearing required because from what I can see, it's basically the same service as what they're offering now. However, I do think they might have to, I am going to confirm this, they might have to approve it prior to the Village Council approving it. So,
So also in the interim, can we pull any documentation, because this property is encumbered through a deed of conservation easement. Can we pull any documentation that the county has authorized that, and whether or not that has to be re-upped?
Okay, we'll check into that.
Thank you.
The next item is proposed stop signs. Mr. Redstauser, while he was out in the field, observed a painted stop bar and tail on Gordon Road where it meets Brookside Avenue without a stop sign, and in the same condition, thanks. I'm sorry, award professional services for the master plan. I'll have Mayor Knudsen do that. I jumped ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. You did jump ahead, and that's funny. So I think we had a letter, but I don't know that everybody has it. Are you missing it? All right, so I'll kind of just give everyone the details. So the Master Plan Committee interviewed both CME Associates, who is our current planner, Marianne Bucci-Carter, and also Hire Gruhl. Hire Gruhl, some might remember, actually maybe nobody here would remember. In 2015, Hire Gruhl did our impact studies for high-density multifamily housing. I believe that may have actually been the spring of 2016. So Hire Gruhl came in, and their presentation, because they had brought in NV5, and NV5 did the visioning process and the visioning documents, they partnered with NV5 and are able to seamlessly provide work toward a master plan document utilizing that information. So while they're including all of the required components by law, they've also recommended a central business district economic impact element. And I think that this is a roadmap to the future of the central business district and how best to look at zoning and how to develop our downtown for the future. So that was an important piece. Two of the other pieces, if you'll recall, we authorized by resolution it's the New Jersey Conservancy, right, for open space. So we authorized the New Jersey Conservancy to use our open space trust fund to do our open space recreation element. And so Hire Gruhl will work with the Conservancy and take their raw data and prepare that element into the master plan so it has a consistency in presentation. So they'll use their language using the Conservancy's raw data. And the other really exciting piece, and I'll start by saying our planning board member and also a member of our historic preservation, Diane O'Brien. We'll start by congratulating her. She just had her baby, Aiden. So welcome to the world and welcome to Ridgewood, Aiden. But Diane O'Brien holds her master's degree in historic preservation, and she has expressed an interest in writing our historic element. And so Hire Gruhl has expressed an interest in actually doing that with her. So we're going to, the recommendation is to go with Hire Gruhl for the master plan. We're on a very tight timeline. We anticipate having a finished product by February. They're especially well poised to do so because of the NV5 piece of it. And that's the recommendation from the committee and the planning board to go with Hire Gruhl. We are going to work out some of the details on the pricing, just because of those pieces with the Conservancy and our historic preservation member and Proud Mama to do that piece. So that's it.
So she wouldn't be an employee of Hire Gruhl?
She is doing this as a resident.
Okay, good.
Because she has always, it has been her, she's actually on the planning board for a number of years. And no, she would not be an employee. It will be the first historic element that she will have written.
Good.
And she's really excited. She's a lifelong resident of Ridgewood. She's raising her family here. And Diane is highly qualified and more than capable of doing so, but she will work hand in hand with Higher Gruel, but she will
Yeah,
be
no,
writing.
it sounded like she was going to consult, like they were going to be consultant or something, so she's
No.
going to just be our resident.
She's going to be writing
Historian.
our
Okay,
historic
good.
element. Okay, so that's it. So the recommendation is to go with Higher Gruel.
Hired rule? I'm not hearing it.
Higher, I think it's Heyer, Gruel, is it Gruel? Is it,
I thought it was H-Y-E-R.
it could, is it on the letter? Did I write it?
I don't have anything.
Hang on, I'll give you, do you want the spelling?
No, it's last names. It's not, okay. No,
Yeah,
I
it's
think I
names.
got it.
It's names.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hang on, let me just get it for you. No, don't.
Yeah, oh, I was going to say.
Hang on, just okay. We have it. Heyer, comma, Gruel, we got that, and Associates.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on.
So if everybody's good with that, we're going to be adopting a resolution awarding them the master plan. Exciting.
Okay. We'll go back to the stop signs. So there were stop bar and tail on Gordon Road where it meets Brookside Avenue without a stop sign, and in the same condition where Hanks Avenue meets Brookside Avenue. The village engineer is recommending the installation of stop signs at both locations to eliminate any confusion for motorists. Okay?
Any questions? I've been looking at that painted thing for a lot of years.
Have you notified the neighborhood that there's going to be stop
We
signs?
don't do so.
We don't do that.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, okay.
There's no reason to.
Okay.
The next item is a vacation of Barrington Road. I'll have Mr. Rogers speak to this.
Yeah, this is just an update. I think you recall that we've had discussions about two areas along Upper Boulevard where Barrington Road comes in from the west and where Phelps Road comes in from the west. Barrington Road, we are, with both of those, we are going to be presenting ordinances that have the council adopt to no longer identify this property with having a public purpose. We're just waiting for the meets and bounds descriptions of the exact location and distances and descriptions of the properties that would be vacated. One issue that we're waiting for a response from one of the neighbors on with regard to Phelps Road. Phelps Road has a little bit of a different issue because on the south side, one property extends all the way to where Phelps Road begins on a macadam level, and then on the other side, there's two separate properties, two separate owners, and one is fronting on Upper Boulevard, and the other one comes in right off of the end of Phelps Road. The property owner that's on Upper Boulevard is very interested in this vacation, and the one behind him is not so sure because he doesn't necessarily want to assume liability for a drainage ditch that exists back there. And I've had a conversation with him, and Chris had a conversation with him as well. We were out at the site, and I just told him you should talk to an attorney so you can understand. I don't want to give you advice about your liability, but talk to an attorney so you understand what your liability and what issues you may have. And I gave him my card so that attorney could call. I haven't heard from him yet, but that ordinance is going to be down the line as well. So sometime probably in August, you might see the first one for the Barrington Road vacation, and then thereafter, if we straighten out what's going on Phelps, because we still don't, they haven't gotten together yet to get a surveyor in to be able to identify the beats and bounds area. So as soon as that one's ready, that'll be coming down the line as well.
So on that, can we vacate the part of it that the one person, because that's that one that has that weird jar thing going on, right?
Yeah, you will be able to make a decision as to whether or not that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
One of the problems with it is that what happens then is that the property lines on these specific private properties become jagged. And ideally what you'd like to do is run the vacation line right up the middle of the area to be vacated so that the properties go to either side, because in this area, if you recall, each property owner actually owns the area where we have a right-of-way. And if we vacate the right-of-way, the property automatically goes to that adjacent property owner. So there's several issues with regard to Phelps. One is just that, can we vacate just that part? But then we'd have to talk about a public purpose for the part that we don't vacate. If we vacate the entire area, does it automatically go to that property owner who doesn't want it anyway? I'm not too sure that's something you want to do, but it's something you can consider. Or is there an option, and once we hear from that one property owner that's hesitant, is there an option for the adjacent property owner on the other side from where that hesitant property owner is to take that whole parcel? And then you may decide to cut it in a way that presents some of these jagged property lines. But we'll be able to look at that, show that on a tax map, how it might come out before you make that decision.
And then on Barrington Road, we still maintain, because we have something with the water utility,
Yeah,
right?
in
So what's the
discussions
status of that?
Right. In discussions with Chris and with Rich Calby, there would be we'd maintain an easement area over that property once we did vacate it, just for future lines. So.
Okay. All right, good. Sounds good. Anyone else? Questions?
Okay. The next item is pickleball days and hours. So you have a memo from Nancy Bigos, our Director of Parks and Recreation, saying that pickleball play at the Glen Courts has continued in the early morning and late evening and the high heat of the day. They are not playing. There's only been limited pickleball play at Bel Air. Those utilizing the pickleball court at Glen continue to self-enforce. They have the muted balls, the green zone paddles. They display their current 2021 badges and abide by the set hours. The reservation and usage for the Glen courts has declined as many players have begun utilizing courts in other towns such as Montvale, Washington Township, Wyckoff, or Glen Rock. They have received some complaints from pickleball players about the temporary lines being thrown off the courts at Bel Air, as well as complaints from the Bel Air tennis players who already lose playing time due to the recreation programs in high school sports. She's given current membership numbers, which is for both tennis and pickleball, 756 members. So at this time, we have to decide if we're going to keep the hours of play in the days the same at Glen and Bel Air, or if we're going to change them at this time.
One of the complaints I heard from the tennis folks is that if there's pickleball on one of the courts and they're playing tennis, that the pickleball noise is distracting. It's jarring for them and distracting, which is fascinating under the circumstances. But I just thought I'd share that. I was just going to sneeze. Hang on.
Nancy, can I ask, I thought
Wait,
the...
let Nancy come up. You want
Yeah,
to
come on up.
Nancy, come on up. God bless you.
Bless you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hi, how are you? So the tape that was used, can you tell us what type of tape that was?
We first started with play lines with chalk, knowing that this was a 60-day pilot program. So the first 2 weeks we used chalk lines. Then Katie and I were lucky enough to go to a professional symposium on pickleball that was held in Clifton, where we discovered a new product that was vinyl. So they're weighted vinyl lines that we purchased, and we've been putting those down on the courts on both Monday and Tuesday mornings.
And then do you take it off after Tuesday?
Our tennis players have been taking them off for us every day.
So, and what you're using doesn't, I know at one point you said something about having to be very careful what you use because it may void the warranty on the courts, so this product is okay for...
Correct. Yes, it's
Okay.
vinyl, it's weighted, so it's the exact measurement of the course and what we were looking to do. But unfortunately, it's movable, and there has been some opposition on territory and play at the courts.
And what is the cost of this tape? Is it minimal?
I want to say it was $80 per court. With the courts, if we were to have the permanent lines installed, were $600 per court.
And that's with paint?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So currently you've been going there like every Monday morning and fixing or redoing it, and
The Parks Division staff have been out there every Monday and Tuesday morning and reinstalling them. At the end of the day, one of our staff members picks them up at the end of their day and brings them to the parks, where we keep them until the following Monday.
okay. And do you have any idea, how many pickleball players have been using this on
Through
Monday?
our periodic drive-by, it's been relatively few. Actually, we've only seen them playing there twice.
Okay.
In your numbers on this, I was just trying to add them up, but the 76 adults who play both, for instance, are those included in the total 344, or is the 344 have to have the 76 added back in?
I cannot answer that, Mayor. I'm sorry. This memo actually came from Katie, not from me.
Okay.
So she did not explain that to me. I do know that there were 344 tennis badges sold.
Oh, so then the 76 has to be in the 344?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
So 36 out of the 344 play both.
So that would
No,
give us...
76 out of
Right.
the 340.
No, because it's 40 pickleball, 76 play both. So you take away the 40, right?
Yes.
Oh,
That's how
right,
I did
okay,
math.
fine. But you didn't know until just this minute.
That's how I, that's how
Okay,
that's
got
how
it.
I looked at, because
All
she's
right.
got the two columns and the total's 756, so.
Right, okay, so, got
That's
it.
my
So you're going to
math's way
deduct
off.
you're going to deduct the 40, and that goes to that line. Got it, okay.
That's how I did.
All right, we're going to rely on your math now. Okay. All right. Okay. I don't know, so what do you want to do? What should we do here? My opinion, for me, my perspective, I think that the Glen Court should remain the same, what we're doing. I think we should continue, just because we're hearing, we're not hearing from the neighbors, so this seems to be at least allowing them the opportunity to use their property and mitigate that noise. In terms of Bel Air, I think we have to understand if there's a way to maybe separate I think the early morning hours seem to be more pickleball. Is that accurate, do you think? You think it's either or? Yeah, okay.
Most of our racket sports now, because of the heat that
The
we've
heat,
been
right.
experiencing, that's what they're actually out there before 8 a.m., so, and they could maybe get a game in before work. So the early morning hours and the early evening hours are really the preferred at this point.
So I hear the tennis players that are saying the pickleball noise and the errant balls are problematic because they're dealing with the noise aspects of it too. So I'm concerned about at least the Bel Air piece of it, but from the Glen piece of it, because we're not hearing the complaints from the neighbors, and we're still having the opportunity for people to play, I think that that's right now a good solution. I think that that's working for the moment. I think we do need to come up with some solutions for Bel Air, because I don't think, and I could be wrong, you could tell me, I don't think that the two sports happening simultaneously are compatible. I think that's a problem, and I think that that's what we're hearing from people, and we certainly want everyone to be comfortable when they're playing. So I don't quite know how to work that, but maybe you and Katie can come up with a solution for that. But we know we don't want to bump the tennis people either, because they're faced with the challenges of, at least what I'm hearing, they have it might actually be in this memo,
We have our instructional
They have
program is at
instructional-
Bel Air, and we also share this facility with the high school.
With the high school.
When the high school students are in their varsity JV and freshman play.
And that's going to start in August, right?
Correct.
They'll start in
Second week in
August,
August.
yeah, usually.
Right.
So,
So the high school uses the Somerville courts, the high school courts, and Bel Air?
yeah.
Yes. Only between the hours of 3:30 and 5:30.
Okay, Monday through Friday?
So I don't know if you can come up with a solution for Bel Air based on that information, Nancy. It would be helpful if you and Katie could come up with that. I think that we need to at least help mitigate the issue that the tennis players are facing with the noise and the errant ball. So that we can kind of separate those two and give the pickleball players some time there, but not the overlap. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm looking at these numbers again, and I think we have to have the numbers described to us a little better, because now as I'm doing the other numbers based on what Susan was thinking it was, it's just not making sense. So
It wasn't making sense when I was trying to add
no,
it up.
I was
That's why I
thinking
was asking.
so when I was doing it initially, they were separating them out, but maybe if she could just say only pickleball, only tennis, and
We can't do that because we do have residents that play both.
yeah, but what do
and
they
it's a-
pay then?
I'm sorry?
What do they pay for their permit then?
It's the same. The fees would be the same. It's a court fee, a racket fee, rather than pickleball or tennis.
So how did she get these numbers?
There was a question on the registration form when they applied for the badge, if they preferred to play tennis, pickleball, or both.
Okay.
So that was something that we were doing, looking to assess the numbers of players, so we had a better idea.
Okay.
So if I were doing these numbers, Nancy, the way I would show them, if I, just as a suggestion, if I were doing the 344 adult tennis players, I would add in the total that of all those that are playing only tennis and those that are playing both, and then I would just have an asterisk that just says, out of this X number of this many are playing.
Yeah.
And so you're added into the total, and then just show a little notation, because it doesn't make sense to me, even if I took the 40 out of the 76, it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm concerned that the whole pickleball community is losing so many hours of morning play because the court opens up at Glen at what time? Is it 9 or 10 o'clock?
It's 9, and then 10, and then 11.
Yeah, I mean, in the summer heat, I still think that they need those earlier hours.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, and I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree, I just, from my position is we should never have installed the courts there in the first place, and I think we've really...
We can't hear. Please speak to the microphone, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So my position is that the courts likely should never have been installed there. I mean, it's a beautiful court, it was a great idea. I just think that that we made a mistake putting them so close. There was certainly enough information in the world that indicated the proximity to residential should be at least 300 feet, and we just didn't do that. So I don't want to do anything that's going to impact people in their homes. But we can take a look at the schedule. I don't know if anyone else has, any thoughts on it. We're certainly so adversely impacting people's lives from the noise, the constant, that they just can't even be inside their homes, let alone be outside.
This summer, the home that is impacted the most is under construction. That's directly behind that court. There aren't even people living there this summer.
I think the home that's impacted the most is the one that's,
Is that Eastbrook?
I don't even know the address, but it's the woman that put in all the shrubs and the windows, and then
I think that's
moved.
Eastbrook, right, Nancy? Is that Eastbrook, the house on Eastbrook that's on that? That's the house that's impacted most, and the house has since changed hands. The folks saw the house when the game wasn't in play, and then they kind of just went, oh yeah, okay, so there's something there, and then they can't live in the house. The kids can't deal with it.
So they moved to the nuisance.
I don't think it's fair to say they moved to a nuisance. I mean, seriously, I think that they moved into a new home. They were excited about the opportunity to move to Ridgewood, to give their children a better education, to provide opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have had for their children. They looked at a house, and who knows when they were shown the house, and maybe it was done deliberately. I don't know, and I can't speak for other people's integrity, but I do think that they were unaware of the level of noise and the impact that it had. They looked at the house at a time when the game was not in play. And so they didn't know much about the sport until they were moved in and settled in, and all of a sudden they had this noise. And so they too are unable to be in their home comfortably. So I don't think it's fair to say they moved to a nuisance. I think it's everybody just does their best in life. They try to make the best decisions for their family. Okay. Anyone else?
So we're going to do another resolution to keep it the same for the rest of the year? What are we going to do?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to the neighbors again and see if there's a morning when they would be comfortable, or 2 mornings, to see if we can open the conversation again, and I'll do that tomorrow. And if they are receptive to that, then I certainly will advise Heather before Wednesday. Is that good for everyone?
I need to know tomorrow because the packets
I'm
go
sorry?
out. I need to know tomorrow because the packets go out tomorrow.
I said I would do tomorrow.
I know.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll take care of it tomorrow. We'll reach out and we'll have a conversation.
Okay. The next item is authorizing the planning board for the Valley Hospital redevelopment. So I'll have Mayor Newton speak to this.
So that's, this is as a requirement of our settlement agreement. Matt, do you want to just?
Sure, I'll talk to it. There have been recent meetings with Fair Share Housing Center, and we've worked out a schedule with them in order to finish out our affordable housing zoning. There are several aspects of it that need to be approached, and one of which was, as part of the settlement, the identification of the present Valley Hospital campus on Linwood Avenue being declared or at least looked at for the purposes of deciding if it fits the criteria as an area in need of redevelopment. We want to get that process started. By statute, it can either begin with the council or with the planning board. In this case, we want to take the lead and at least advise or authorize the planning board to begin the process. We hope to have it resolved. I think we put the schedule out to fair share. This redevelopment aspect, which has a number of components to it that are mostly procedural and some substantive, that we're hoping to get that done, and we should be able to get it done by the end of the year. That would involve not only deciding whether or not that area campus is an area in need of redevelopment, but also the proposed zoning and identifying, some proper criteria for that development if and when Valley Hospital was ever to sell that property to a private developer. So this is going to be what's known as an overlay type situation, overlay zoning of the property with a redevelopment purpose, which allows and enables the village to take a greater involvement with regard to not only the zoning for it, but also the development of the property. For all intents and purposes, from what we understand, Valley Hospital, as part of the settlement with them, wanted us to make sure that we zoned the present facility into a conforming status so that whatever they did with it after they went to Paramus, which they intended to keep it as healthcare uses and medical uses, they could maintain those premises, those facilities, in the size and the placement that they are right now. The first step in terms of the things we need to do and get done by the end of the year is to authorize the planning board to look at this and begin the process of deciding or making the determination if this area of the Valley Hospital campus meets the criteria for a redevelopment zone. And that's what we want to authorize the planning board to do.
Any questions? You good?
Yeah, I have a question. So Matt, does this mean that if it is an area in need of redevelopment or rehabilitation, that it would no longer be an H zone?
It no longer be an H zone. I think what's going to happen, it's kind of like a twofold aspect to it. One is that as part of the settlement agreement, we've agreed that we would make the present campus and set up the zoning so that the present campus is conforming. If you recall, the issue is, one of the big issues is that the present hospital campus does not conform to the regulations of that zone, of that H zone. In fact, it far exceeds it. Mm-hmm. As part of the settlement, we agreed that we would zone it so that all the buildings and the structures conform. Setbacks, height, other requirements, FAR, all the different things that go into our ordinance, as long as it conforms, they think that, they want to make sure that there isn't any further move that's going to come down the line or anything else that's going to happen, that they've got to file for another use variance if they want to change a use or do something different on it. And if anybody needs to see them, I can circulate the settlement agreement with Valley Hospital again so everybody understands it. I know it's been a while. So one part of it is making, doing the zoning so that the present facilities at Valley Hospital's campus are conforming in accordance with the zone regulations. The second part of that is that it was included with this round's fair share requirements. So since it was, we have to deal with zoning for it. Now, Valley Hospital occupies it. There's two ways you can do that. One is strictly overlay zoning. The other one, which was an approach that was suggested by our planner, Beth McManus, was to work it so that it was declared consider whether or not it should be an area of need of redevelopment, and that would allow us to do some more creative zoning with regard to that, to allow for maybe some, single structures around the perimeter and some multi-unit structures inside so that we could handle our affordable housing need that's for that particular site. So the redevelopment aspect of this, if it's found to be applicable, allows us to use greater impact in terms of the way that we can design this so that it's more compatible with the residential neighbors in that area. And if you recall, there was a residential group that was involved in this particular aspect of it. They understood, they were part of the settlement process, and they were acceptive of this proposal. So now we're getting underway with regard to getting these things done. And we've got to do both, but we're going to get it done, and hopefully, I think the schedule that we want to get on is one that's going to finish it all by the end of the year.
So when did they give a date that they plan to vacate?
No, there's no
They
date
didn't
determined.
give a date
No.
yet?
Valley,
Okay.
in Valley Hospital, if you recall, said in their settlement agreement that whenever we do go to Paramus, we want to keep this campus in the size that it is as a healthcare facility for healthcare purposes, maybe outside imaging. There was a number of different uses. One of the other things they also said is that they were considering, and it was part of the settlement agreement, the Phelps Wing, which is the oldest wing that's alongside of Linwood Avenue, as a possible assisted living type facility, same size, same location, same structure, and that's why they wanted it all to conform with the zoning that we're going to set up.
Okay.
And they were in talks with a particular group, which was Brandywine, I believe, for that purpose. So,
Okay. Okay.
and
That's
my-
all I had.
just
Yeah.
happens to be that my father's in Phillips right now anyway, so, but I was there this afternoon. But in any event, it's all to get resolved by the end of the year if we can, and one of the first steps is the determination with regard to area in need of redevelopment, so.
Okay, well, good, that's all I have. Very good. Okay, next item.
I just have one question, because Beth McManus indicated that it could be also, it says, a condemnation redevelopment area, or is it just going to be an area in need of redevelopment?
Yeah, one of the things we decide, one of the things that gets looked at by the planning board in this purpose, and we faced the same issue when it came to the Hudson Street parking garage. When we had that and used the Redevelopment Act to help develop that parcel, there's a determination that has to be made as to whether or not there's any condemnation of any property contemplated. And with the Hudson Street garage, obviously, we owned it already, so there was no condemnation contemplated. One of the things we'll talk about is just how that concept is impacted by the ownership by Valley Hospital in terms of what they want to do. I would suggest at this time it may be that we're not contemplating any condemnation, but that's something that's going to be discussed in open forum at a later date.
So we'll take that sentence out? That's my question, because this is a resolution.
I'll just, for this purpose, I'll straighten that out with
Okay, okay,
But
okay.
I didn't see that one that you put in,
okay,
so.
okay, I'll send it to you.
Sure.
Okay. The next one is the playground and observation dock for the Green Acres diversion. So, one of the requirements for the Green Acres diversion is that the village is required to provide a playground to replace the playground which was lost in the diversion. The best location was determined to be Kings Pond Park. This park has been developed into a beautiful and inviting park over the past few years with walking paths, benches, new plantings. The playscape will add to the amenities of the park and will provide this area of Ridgewood with a place to bring young children to play up to the age of 5 or 6. The conceptual plans for the ADA accessible playscape, along with information about what each area does, is provided to the council in their packet. The surface of the playground will be certified playground mulch, which is the surface of other village-owned playscapes. The playscape is in the natural shades of green and green. Topology, our consultant, had recommended that we add the observation dock to provide additional recreational opportunities, which would then bolster our application with Green Acres. Green Acres has allowed us to move forward to the final application process with the playscape and the observation dock at Kings Pond Park. We need to adopt a Title 59 resolution, and then we'll get a more defined plan for the playscape, and then Chris Ruthershauser will also have to submit the plans to NJDEP for their approval of the project. So at this time, we have some conceptual plans for the playscape. I know Nancy's here. She met directly, and Chris is also here. So if you have questions for Chris as well, he could answer them as well. You have questions?
I also want to mention to you, Mayor and Council, that I did invite David Rainey to be with us this evening. David is the designer with Little Tykes and Boyce Associates who has drawn the conceptual design, and he is here to help you understand some of the components of the playground itself. So David, do you want to join us?
Sure.
So just so that you know that the playground that we have conceptually put together for you is one that is very similar to the one that we have on Veterans Field. This is a playground that is ADA accessible. It is geared towards children ages 2 to 5. And what I believe was in your packet was purely conceptual. So what we did was we just wanted to take a design and then be able to incorporate the play areas that we talked about, and then to be able to give the council a playground that they could consider for this particular park. And we are most able to change colors and climbing areas and eliminate parts of it, add parts according to your desire.
I had a question about the overall height. I don't know if I see that in here. Actually, I know, if I'm looking at this, it looks like the umbrella is the highest point.
Yes.
So how tall is?
Thank you for your time. So the highest platform is 64 inches high. So that's where the highest platform is. The umbrella reaches 6 feet from the platform, 64-inch height platform. The umbrella is, 8 feet above that platform.
So what is the total height of the structure?
So you're looking at
14. Yeah,
8
14
feet
4
and then
inches.
12, 14 or 15 feet on that.
The two of them are whispering, going, it's 14 feet, it's 14 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so 14 feet. So I'm just wondering from across the street, like if somebody's just walking along the road, you don't think that that's obstructive at all? I mean, I love the playground. I think it's adorable. It's a really nice fit, but it's not. We don't think it's obstructing.
I mean, I don't believe so. The 14-foot is standard. If you look at most playgrounds that have an umbrella, they're all going to be about that same height, give or take. The other main reason for the umbrella is, due to the heat and the sun, it's a safety factor too for the items getting, too hot to touch. Not that they will, but it's kind of a safety factor. Helps the kids play in the shade also. So it could be removed, but it is. I do believe it's a benefit for their play.
I actually like the umbrella. It's kind of cute. And what is the length?
So the length of the entire area would be 72 feet by 36 feet.
Okay, so the depth.
That's where
on
the
it
whole
is
mulch
the depth
is.
is the
The whole-
36.
Yeah,
Got it.
the
Okay.
certified play area is 72 by 36.
So can I ask, so on the plan, I see proposed playground area, and then there's a proposed field, 50 by 75 feet. What is the proposed field? Is it just grass?
I don't know what
Nancy,
plan
it's
you're
on-
referring to.
The field isn't something we're considering at this time.
I'm sorry, what?
The field is not something we're considering at this time. What I wanted to show on this view was the dock, the observation dock, as well as the proposed playground.
Okay. So why is the proposed field on the
Because that
new-
was in the drawing from 2018. It was a conceptual drawing. It still is.
Okay. And how many parking spots are there here?
I want to say that there were 9 in the designated parking spot at the end, and then also parking along the road parallel.
Okay. If you park along the road parallel, because I think there's all plantings now along the road, correct? Like if you park on the road, then do you have to walk through the plantings to get to the
There
playground?
will be individual entrances throughout the park once we get to that point. We also have had conversations about installing a split rail fence for security purposes with the children at play.
Okay. And I guess another question is the path. What is the material of the path?
Chris can answer that, but I want to say that is pretty much cinder. Do you call it rose stone, Chris?
Crushed stone, it's
He's
like
kind
a, yeah.
Stone dust, I think.
It's cinder for those of us that ran track back in the 70s.
That's what it was.
Cinder, right?
Good evening, Council, again. The pathway is like a rock flour stone dust mix.
Okay.
It tightens up somewhat. It is a little bit movable. When it's graded smooth, it is traversable by a wheelchair generally.
So currently, I mean, there's deep grooves in the area.
Yes, the recent rainstorms have been a detriment to that and have added to the maintenance that's required for that.
Is there any way to prevent that from happening, or it's just going to continue?
It's the nature of the material. We can consider a harder material, such as a concrete. We've put in concrete sidewalks in a number of our parks, Habernickel for one. We've got the walking path out of asphalt here at Veterans Field. At this project, we had elected to use stone dust, but we're seeing that its maintenance requirements are getting to be a little bit arduous.
Yeah.
What is the material that, say, is around the high school track and the BF track? Is that rubber or?
The track material, that's a synthetic material. I don't know what the cost is, but it's also something that may be difficult to provide winter maintenance on. What we like to do with the park design is we like to be able to plow the snow. Example, again, is one of our successful parks, Habernickel. We made the sidewalks 8 foot wide. You can plow them with a pickup, and we do in the winter.
So, I mean, I'm just curious. I don't see what's there now, you being able to plow. Is it plowable?
Currently, it's too narrow to plow, but we can consider using a snow blower if we want to, if we want to make a full all-season use of the park. We certainly would want to provide access to the playground all year round. It is right next to the well house, and there is a little patch of asphalt there. So we're looking at making a hard surface from that patch of asphalt by the well house to the playground if we can.
Okay. But so what I don't understand, I mean, you know what it looks like now. It's got the deep grooves.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, something has to be done to fix it. When you fix it, that's going to happen again if we have a heavy rains.
We're looking at installing velocity attenuation devices in the landscaping to hopefully break up the flow of water. We haven't designed anything yet, but that's the only option we have other than replacing the material.
Okay. I mean, because right now I think it's a dangerous situation for, say, a toddler to be walking on that, because there are grooves that go down 4 inches, et cetera. So that's a big concern for me. And obviously, if somebody was parking up in one of those 9 spaces and had a 3-year-old and a baby, and they put the baby in the stroller, they can't walk down that path in its current condition. So I would want to make sure that whatever you guys come up with, that the current condition wouldn't come back.
Okay, we're going to take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm just going to go back to the playground for a minute, because I love the playground. I think it's just a nice addition. I don't think it's too intrusive. Do you, Nancy? I don't.
So we intentionally tried to stay with something that truly blended into the neighborhood, you know, to the wildscape area. Our idea was to keep it very simple. Most of it is climbing, some of it is interactive for the children, but you can see that we don't have many moving pieces, so there aren't swings. There's not a seesaw. There's nothing that moves. So all of the movement will be by the children themselves.
And then those stumps, is that what you call them?
Yes.
So they're not actually going, they look stump color, is that what they would, they would be
They
like a
look
natural
birch.
look?
Yeah, they're birch.
Birch, okay, yeah, it's cute. It's,
And
it's,
various heights.
and those are climbable, I guess? You
Correct.
can
They're
just go
from
back and
12
forth them?
12
Yeah, it's
inches
cute.
and 20 inches high, depending
Okay.
on
What's
which
it
one.
made of?
It's a like a synthetic rubber material.
What about on the playscape itself? I assume the slides are plastic.
Plastic slides.
What about the other parts of the playscape? What are they made of? I mean, I see the rope and that sort of thing, but
Right.
is
So
it all plastic?
The activity panels are plastic. That you see there is a the ground panels are steel for durability purposes. The activity panels on the platform under the umbrella are plastic. You know, the tic-tac-toe that spins and things of that nature.
Can I ask what size the rock is?
Yes, the rock. I don't have that dimension directly in front of me. I apologize for that.
Okay. I mean, just curious, can a few kids play on it at
Yeah,
the
I
same
would say about
time?
two children playing. There's a medium rock, there's a larger rock, which is bigger, but this medium fit better. But I would say 2 kids would be playing on it, yeah.
And what's it made out of?
Again, that's the synthetic rubber material. You know, it's durable, it's, impact resistant, so if a kid does, fall, they're not hitting their head on an actual rock. It's, a material that's meant for impact.
Okay. And how heavy is that? Is it like, I guess it's bolted into something?
It is.
Because what is
There's a
it?
piece in the middle that is kind of bolted into the ground or
Okay.
dug into the ground, so
Got it.
it can't be pushed or moved or anything of that
Yeah,
nature.
yeah, it's funny.
All this is buried equipment.
Yeah, I like the rock too. The rock's fun.
So
And
Nancy,
just to add, the reason we did the rock and the stumps are to keep with that wooded nature theme.
Yeah.
These items can always be changed out, but it's for that purpose to keep with that nature theme, looking against the wood backdrop.
so I want to play the devil's advocate because my children played at Lincoln Park and always ended up in the river. So what's going to be the deterrent?
Children are children.
So, I mean,
there's
are we
a-
going to put any signage? I'm just thinking, it is for smaller kids, and
To
Isn't
be
there a
honest
fence
with
there?
you, Councilwoman, I need to be able to go out there and take a look.
Yeah.
This was all truly conceptual, based on Heather's
Yeah.
phone call about us meeting the needs of the diversion.
Yeah.
So we kind of
Yeah.
got it together as quickly as we could to be prepared for you. We would need to be able to go out, and I want to see myself do some measuring. I know that David and I and Matt were out there, and we took a look. And we really felt that it was a good fit.
Yeah.
For the park. It added a destination, for some
Yeah,
of
I
our
mean, I
younger
think it's-
families to be able to utilize this facility.
Yeah, I think it's a great design. I'm just concerned that there's always going to be the stray kid who, while the other one's climbing here, is going to jump into the pond. Because I had a kid like that. He's going off to college now, but and he's
And
still
you live
jumping in the
adjacent to
river,
one of
so-
those parks, yes.
Still jumping.
I think, because I was there today with Susan. Isn't there a fence along the whole?
No.
No.
And then there's plantings before you get to the
Plantings,
Yeah,
river.
the
correct.
plantings, though, it
Yeah.
looks like, because everything is blocked, I guess, for the deer, so the deer,
And the
Can?
geese.
The fence
oh, and the
isn't-
geese, right. It's not a
I
fence,
thought-
it's just, it looks like a square chicken wire or something, is that what it is? It's
Yes.
not a fence, no.
It's a deterrent
But
right
could you
now
go through
for the
it?
new
I mean, you couldn't
plantings.
go through it unless you.
No, but it's going to come out when the plants are
Right,
established.
right.
It's only there
I
until
thought
the
that
plants
was
are established.
permanent. Oh,
No,
okay.
no.
Okay.
We are in phases
Yeah.
within this park
Then-
development.
Then definitely
beautiful.
kids are going to go in.
If anybody hasn't been there, it looks magnificent. The plants are beautiful.
In terms of playscape design, are there any other material options? Can we use wood anymore, or are people too afraid of splinters?
Yeah,
Is there
wood
a
is-
liability?
So they do have some Trex type material that they use now instead of wood, depending on where you would want to put it. Now, as far as the rock and the stumps, that doesn't come in that material, but they do have some Trex that is used. But as far as the platforms, that's always the steel. The slides are always plastic. That's a standard in the industry and with Little Tykes for that durability reason.
I guess they're just safer. You
And
don't get the splinters, you don't get the weather, you don't get the heat from the metal. I think it's just safer.
And it lasts longer.
And it lasts longer.
Oh, speaking of heat from metal, we have benches here, iron benches, which look very pretty, but I
Those
looked at-
benches are not included, Councilwoman, in the conceptual, although they were put on. We've already included the benches with our park design.
And the cabana, gazebo, whatever that is.
That's also just conceptual and nothing we're doing.
I think the gazebo was out in 2018.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
This was an overall design. This was the only design that had both the playground and the dock, which is why I gave you this design. So the field and the gazebo, again, were conceptual in 2018.
The dock, will that have a railing?
Yes.
It will.
I always liked the observation dock. I always thought that was a pretty add-on, because it allows you to kind of go into the world and kind of really experience it a little bit differently than just standing on the sidelines. So I always thought the observation, that dock, was a nice piece. So,
That's what they have at Glen Rock.
yeah,
Yeah.
the dock is Glen Rock. Yeah, so I'm good. I don't know about anyone else. Oh, and I think on the original plan, it didn't say proposed field. It just said grassy area. It just said, but it's all lawn. It's all grassy. That's what I never understood why it said that, but it's not. Doesn't show it as a field. It says grassy area.
Grassy.
But we're good.
Okay, so everyone's okay with this design and the colors? So what we'll probably do is introduce a bond ordinance in January and have it adopted in February, because what it is we have to have this place keep built by the time 6 months after the New Jersey State House Commission approves it, which our consultant is estimating will be April or May. So this way we'll have the money in place. You're under state contract, correct?
Correct.
So because it's under state contract, we could then, once the ordinance is adopted, we can do a resolution, and then they can schedule it to be built. We can't build it now, I'd love to, but we've been told by our consultant in Green Acres, you can build it, but it may not count towards your requirement. So we don't want to do that. We're going to hold off, and this way it'll be in another budget year, but also this way we'll get the credit for replacing the playground that was diverted. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
The next one is accepting a grant for body-worn camera for the police department. As we know, it's a mandate that all police officers are to wear body-worn cameras. The Office of the Attorney General has provided grant funding to help support this statewide mandate. Each department that applied for the grant received $2,038 per camera, which means our grant award is $97,824. This grant does not require any matching amount, but will reimburse a portion of the cost of the cameras as we purchase and implement the system. This grant must be fully executed within 4 weeks of receiving the information, so the deadline to accept the grant is July 22nd, which we're going to do it on Wednesday. The resolution also authorizes the mayor to sign the grant agreement.
Any questions, anyone?
Okay, the next one is accepting the donation of planting of trees. As you recall, Mahmoud Hamza did appear at our last council meeting. He handed me a check, which I have given to Mr. Rooney to put into trust, And it was donations from the neighbors, the friends, and members of the Muslim Society of Ridgewood to honor his mother who passed away due to complications of COVID. He would like to have one tree planted to commemorate his mother who loved trees, to be planted next to his father's tree. The rest of the money is to go towards planting trees in the Central Business District, and he wants to thank everyone who contributed towards the donation for his mother. So this will be a resolution to accept that donation. He does not have any applications before any boards or committees at this time.
Very good.
The next one is the municipal aid grant application. This is for 2022. It's for the resurfacing of North Monroe Street from Monte Vista Avenue to West Glen Avenue. Part of the grant application process is that a resolution be approved by the governing body submitting the application. Okay, everyone's in favor of that?
Yep.
Okay, the next one is review of parks and park projects. I know some of our parks and park projects are ongoing, and so what I think is probably, I've spoken with the mayor, and we'll try to do an update once a month on the parks. There may be no movement because for some of the parks, such as Shedler, we're bound by SHPO and how long it will take for them to approve some of the plans we have. But the basically, I can give you a brief update now on the Shedler property and the Zabriskie Shedler house. For the property, the soil conservation permit has been renewed with Bergen County. The SHPO application for the berm, trees near the berm, and the fencing at the berm have been submitted to the village engineer for his review. This is the first item which will be worked on at the Shedler property. Once the review has been completed by the village engineer, it will be sent to SHPO for review and approval. There may be additional information SHPO needs, or perhaps things that they want changed. And so, again, we are bound to wait for their comments back to see whether or not it's approved. Overall, I just want everyone to know that the village is working with SHPO in order to avoid going to the encroachment board. We will try to come to a mutually agreeable design for the Shedler property, which is the better way to proceed. As far as the Zabriskie Shedler house, Connolly and Hickey, the historic architects who are working on the restoration of the interior of the Zabriskie Shedler house, have been hired to complete the final phase. There will be a hearing on the pre-qualification regulations for the bidders to be hired to do the work at the August 11th, 2021 public meeting. We're also looking at what types of material, this is kind of the house and the property, but what we might use on the driveway and parking lot near the house. SHPO has indicated that they would be willing for us to consider pavers so that these surfaces could be easily plowed in the winter months, allowing the use of the Zabriskie Shedler house to be accessible in all seasons. So again, there's going to be a lot of back and forth once these plans are submitted to SHPO. Once they do approve them is when we can move forward. So, but basically for the property, the berms, the trees on the berm, near the berm, and the fencing are the first thing for the property. As I said, we're moving forward with the house, with the qualification regulations for the bidders.
So I only have one question, I guess for Chris. When does he anticipate his review will be completed, and a timeline for submitting the berm plan? I think it was a smart approach to separate out those pieces. So if you have an idea of when that will happen.
Good evening again. I finished my review of what Brian and our office had prepared. I gave it back to him with a couple of comments and some additional items to add to our packet to SHPO. He's off tomorrow, so hopefully he'll finish it off on Wednesday, Thursday. Hopefully we'll get it electronically submitted to SHPO Friday or so.
Very good.
And then we'll wait to see what their comments are. And again, as Heather said, seek to address them without our proposal creating an encroachment that requires a greater review from SHPO.
Right. Okay. Great.
So, Chris, so what was approved by SHPO so far? Like, what did they approve, what did they reject? What status are we at in terms of what SHPO, because the last we talked about it was months ago when we talked about the changes in the designs and everything else. So the application went in, it came back, like where are we, like what happened?
We never really made a formal application because we found, again, we had discovered the entire site is SHPO governed, and we had to adjust our designs. SHPO, like Heather said, we've been having a back and forth with them. Feedback has come back that their vision for the property is that it be a historical or historically agricultural in appearance. Using that as a guideline, we changed our design to remove some parking, shift some parking, see where we can put things. Contact them and say, how do you feel about something like this? And we sought their guidance and have designed accordingly.
So
That's why we're looking at pavers for the hard surface area. They're not very much in favor of asphalt. Again, it goes with their vision of the site as historically architectural.
So I guess my confusion is, how did they have so much control over their vision as opposed to what our vision is?
The site is overseen, SHPO has oversight of not just the house, but the entire 7.92 acre property.
So if we don't, I guess, is it a catch-22? You can't submit an application unless they've already given you the guidelines for what you can submit?
No, you could submit an application if you so choose, but if you don't work with them, the chances of getting anything approved diminish greatly.
Or it's just a slower process? It's
Well,
not- it's just
if like the village wishes to just pave with asphalt, common enough material, if we use too much, they may say, you're going to have to go through the encroachment process and go for a full State Historic Preservation Board review.
So to avoid, so in other words, avoiding an encroachment review, encroachment
But I
board.
thought we had put the application in, so the application never went to them.
We've made applications, but not a formal application. There's no signed and sealed drawings with my signature on them. We've sent conceptual drawings, preliminary drawings, again, to gauge their opinion on what we're proposing to meet what the village is seeking.
So in working with SHPO, we came to the conclusion it would be smart to separate out the berm and the fencing and the trees by the berm so that we could get one thing done. Then we could go and next maybe probably do the driveway in and the parking lot near the house. And then after that, we would move to the other end. What they want is the house to be isolated as an agriculturally historic area. Then we can move on to like the field, and if there will be a playscape there in the future, who knows what else may be there, but that will take a while. So at least we can get the berm done, it'll make it safer, and then we can move on from there.
Yeah, because and that was the challenge at our Parks and Rec meetings, that, and the field committee meetings. It was, everybody's waiting. We talked about a field, but everybody's waiting. So it sounds like it's going to be multiple applications for individual items, and that's what the public's going to have to, there's going to have to be some sort of a scale of, this application went in, expect a response back. Yeah.
Well, we
The
can't really
berm
dictate.
application, we're going to submit by the end of this week. Again, we hope to get a relatively quick approval on that, so we can move forward with the actual construction of that. The application for the rest of the site, again, exclusive of the house, because those SHPO details are being addressed by Conley and Hickey. The site, as I said, is going to be a bit of a challenge. We have gotten input from our police department on some of the concerns they have in terms of security, visibility for an approaching officer, and how, as Heather said, SHPO is looking to create a bubble around the house.
Correct.
That bubble has to be historically architectural, and any playing field has to be buffered, shielded, whatever word you want to use, from that house bubble, in a manner that SHPO finds acceptable.
Correct.
Is there any kind of guesstimate as to when the interior work is going to start again?
Well, again, the first step is that hearing for the pre-qualification of the bidders, which is going to be on August 11th.
Okay.
After that, then they can go out for, write the specs, get the bidders, and then once they get that, I would guess around October we might be awarding the bid, October, November. That's a guess, I don't know.
Okay.
But it takes time. But the good news is interior work for the most part, so hopefully.
It can be done during the winter?
Hopefully, most of it will get done during the winter.
Yeah, the house does have electricity to it because we ran a temporary service to it for the previous phase of work that had been completed. The house doesn't have a heating plant. That'll be part of this phase likely. But the last time we worked through the winter, we had our job meetings there. They provided temporary heating. They met with a fire official and made sure that none of their temporary heating methodologies would endanger the structure. And that worked out.
Okay.
So I think SHPO has been receptive to doing this section by section. I think it's actually a better approach anyway, even for us. I don't think it's as...
They seem to want to work with the village on, as you would say, a bifurcated application.
Yeah, bifurcated,
where
yeah.
we take, we're going to have three different primary components: the berm, the site development, and the house. So I say those are the three right now. Will they be split to further details? I don't think so, but that remains to be seen.
And just keep in mind, too, that SHPO employees have not been working in the office that often. They've been in maybe once every other week or so. They also don't have a lot of access to their files at home or wherever else they're working. So hopefully, I'm hoping these state employees will soon come back to work, full-time, and then it'll be a little easier. I mean, it's not just SHPO. It's a lot of state agencies that we deal with that we've really had to wait a lot longer than normal because they're not working in the offices.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you for the update.
Thanks. The next is the beautification of the dining corrals. So I know that you all received the information. Basically, what they're going to do is clean and prime the dining corrals, and then they're going to have various vines and ferns and painted on to the corrals by former art teachers and members of the Ridgewood Arts Council, and it'll be done through a template which will be made in the Ridgewood High School makerspace so that all the designs will be consistent.
So I just want to point out that there was some confusion over procedurally how this should have happened. And my understanding from the beginning was that this was Ridgewood Arts Council, which is advisory to the Village Council. And because of that confusion, it appears that the designs are going to be reviewed by the Arts Council, I believe, this week. So I think something just got out of whack. There were some people who should have been copied, and one was and who wasn't. So we're just going to make sure that we're mindful and respectful of our Arts Council members as their coordination of the project. And I think they've all been in touch now, so that's good.
I'd like to thank Benjamin Moore for donating all the paints and the brushes and the rollers and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think once we have all our ducks in a row, and I think the Arts Council will probably send everything to us so that we can have all of that information consolidated and we know who did everything and we can thank everyone accordingly. So, but we just want to make sure that we're mindful of their role in this and that respectful of that as well. So, okay.
So the next item is a review of I was going to say next week, but in 2 days we have our public meeting. So we have a proclamation to recognize the retirement of Donna Jackson, Deputy Village Clerk. We have the appointment of the new Deputy Village Clerk, Eileen Young, which will be effective August 1st, and swearing her in. We also have the swearing in of Police Officer Andrew Van Dyke, who has graduated the Police Academy. As far as ordinances, Ridgewood Water does not have any introductions or public hearings. Resolutions for Ridgewood Water include awarding contract for roof repairs, awarding contract for the 2021 Ford Escape, awarding contract under state contract for water testing, laboratory cabinetry and countertops, awarding contract under state contract for emergency generator, awarding contract under state contract for Western Star Tandem axle dump truck and the steel chassis, award professional services contract for engineering services for PFAS treatment designs at various facilities, and awarding a professional services contract for the public policy consultant. Introduction of ordinances is amending Chapter 265 for vehicles and traffic, for establishing stop signs at Hanks Avenue and Gordon Road at Brookside Avenue. Public hearings are amending Chapter 145 fees for the daily parking permit fee, amending Chapter 265 vehicles and traffic, establishing stop signs, Highland Avenue and Grandview Circle at McKinley Place, repealing Chapter 154 flood damage prevention and adopting new Chapter 154 flood management regulations. We have resolutions for awarding a contract for infrared asphalt surface repair. We have awarding contract washing machine and dryer for the fire department, awarding contract for removal and replacement of waste oil tank at Fleet Garage, Title 59 approval and award of contract for furnishing, delivering and maintenance of emergency services communications equipment, awarding contract for the crossing guard services, awarding contract for the aerial lift truck for traffic and signal, awarding the contract under state contract for the vehicle tracking system software and additional vehicle installation services, awarding professional services contract for Green Acres appraisers, awarding professional service contract for Hammond Road Green Acres diversion issue, also surveying for Green Acres diversion issue for Marlborough Road, and also surveying for Green Acres diversion issue for 308-316 South Broad Street. We have the award of the professional services contract for the master plan, awarding, we're not going to do the extraordinary because that has to go out to bid for the Kingsbridge bridge. Authorized rebid of contract for the body shop services for Public Works, authorizing shared services agreement for snow plowing. This is a second year of a 2-year contract where the county plows, we plow the county roads and they reimburse us. We have a Title 59. I also probably will not do the gatehouse at this time. I am checking with Green Acres. It may be in August. Accept grant and authorize execution of grant agreement for body-worn cameras for the police department. Accepting donation for tree planting, accepting the donation for the We Note collection of musical instruments at the Children's Sensory and Butterfly Garden, authorizing 2022 NJDOT municipal aid grant for resurfacing of North Monroe Street, releasing of escrow and performance bond for 9-27 Franklin Avenue, the Benjamin, and set days and times for pickleball play at Glen School and Bel Air Courts. I think I got everything. Did anyone want anything off of the consent agenda?
Yes, the purchase of the Ford Escape.
Okay, sure.
Did you say the Ford Escape?
Yes, Ford Escape. Anything else?
So all those vehicles were discussed during the budget, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
All right, very good. So with that, we will return to public comment. Good evening. Go ahead. Oh, try again, Siobhan.
If the green light goes, I think it's on.
No, I think it's on now.
No, you're on. You're good.
Okay. So, Siobhan Cram, Winograd, 274 Ivy Place. I just want to briefly say this is a COVID moment because congratulations in person to the new council members. That's how long it's been since I've actually been here, and you all look great up there. It's nice to see you assuming your roles. I'm here to follow up on an email that I sent regarding hybrid access to the meetings. No one responded back to me. Pam, you were perfectly polite, but the merits of what I wrote was unaddressed. I'm concerned that the Village Council has pulled the plug overnight on hybrid access to the meetings. I'm concerned because this sort of looks anti-accessible. As you know, I'm the daughter of a handicapped person. I'm very sensitive to this, and I thought one of the silver linings to COVID and the remote access was that people who typically could not access this meeting were allowed to. I think all of you can agree, if you look out here, it's the Hallibys and me, and that's not a very good showing of the community. I mean, we're lovely people, but it's not a large number. When Ramon put in hybrid access, you had a resurgence in democracy. There was no doubt about it. Meetings had hundreds of people, and overnight you turned that off. And I think in doing so, you told a lot of citizens, we don't want to hear from you. I don't know if that was your intent. I hope it wasn't, but it seems like a bad idea. The Board of Ed is currently running it. Other municipalities are running it. The county is running it. And I would, for all the reasons I put in my note, encourage you guys to look more progressive with respect to not going back to pre-COVID business as usual. It's a unique opportunity to connect with people, and not just accessibility issues. There's economic ones. People who work nights. When my children were small, I had to pay for a babysitter to come here. I think you're really discounting a large swath of your population by keeping this in place, and it makes our town look narrow and antiquated. And I encourage all of you to change it, and pretty much change it immediately. For the record, I'm the only person speaking at public comment tonight. That should say a lot to you. I hadn't planned on saying this, but I wrote a couple notes because the agenda was so full. As you know, I'm a neighbor of the original Broad Street Park that went missing when I think I was in 3rd grade. I'm thrilled to see the town replacing it and going for the pipeline of cash that's waiting for us. I've been really vocal about this for about 4 years. I think the whole community agrees this park needs to be replaced. I am concerned about our parks in general. I do not think Kings Pond is a good place for a play structure for a lot of the reasons, like Lorraine said. I have concerns about the accessibility of the walkway, which appears to be eroding. Not to be gross, the geese are disgusting, and they will geese up, for lack of a better phrase, the play structure. I am an aunt to twin nephews, and when I used to watch them, I intentionally did not go near water that had play structure next to it, because if you turn around, it can be a serious issue. I also feel that this is a red flag, and I don't mean this to be insulting, that you're not as deeply committed to Shedler as you should be. We've owned Shedler for 13 years. I think everybody felt the goal was, if you're going to spend 6 figures on a play structure, put it at Shedler. All the neighbors want it there. The whole community wants a play structure there. The concerns about Kings Pond are valid. It's anti-environmental. It's huge. There's an attractive nuisance of water. Why not take the money and put it at Shedler? It does 2 things. One, it gives the old Glen School area and the Shedler neighborhood a playground that they've been clamoring for 14 years, and it will free it up. The timing related to Green Acres is serious. They're very restrictive. So, when you back out the 6 months, you're talking next year. If we don't have something done by Shedler by next year, that's a problem. I've been, again, writing about Shedler, and even though, I applaud the efforts to get the Berman, the project's stuck. And I think it would be a big sign to parks in general and our budget, because 6 figures for a playground is huge, if this council said, we need a replacement parcel for my neighborhood's playground that's gone missing. Let's make a commitment to these 7 acres and a neighborhood that's wanted a playground and put it there. Again, I really thank you for your service. I just think it's an incredible miss to exclude these meetings to the people who can come out at night.
Rorick Halliby, 1 Franklin Avenue. Again, I urge you to speak into the microphone. You are not having a private discussion. This is not a salon. This is a public meeting. And I could especially when the mayor was speaking, I could get maybe half the words that she was uttering. Speak into the microphone. Secondly, when Rich Calby gave a presentation, I looked at the monitors and I decided, I'm not boasting, but the TV in my living room is bigger than this. And so from here, you can't see anything on it. And I really think if you're going to use this to show the public what it is you're showing, you should have screens that are twice as big. I don't know what the budget is, but these things are just useless. Another point is, a couple of you talked about educating the public. Educating the public. A better expression would be engaging the public, because very candidly, the public has far more to educate you than you to educate the public. If you approach this with any humility, there is so much you don't know, and the public can teach you. And there is no better medium to engage the public than to have a decent website. I do not understand your stubbornness. In the last 3 years, 4 years, I've been talking about it, of fighting having a decent website. A decent website that, among other things, could have a few pages on the environment. What can the village residents do to improve the tree canopy? How can they plant trees? How can they do this? How can they do that? You just have to have one. It's an embarrassment. It's a very, very poor reflection on you. Now, listening to the mayor talk about pickleball and the fact that somehow the future of the hours will depend on her talking to one or two neighbors, made me think that we're so happy with moving to the Franklin, but a couple of times I was awakened at 2 o'clock in the morning by the trains blowing their whistles. So I'd like to urge the village council to speak to New Jersey Transit about stopping any train movement middle of the night, because they're disturbing my sleep. Of course I'm being silly when I say this, but no sillier than leaving it to one neighbor to determine what 200 people are enjoying. Lastly, the council member Walsh raised a very good question as to how did we get here as far as the mess that is Shedler. The only thing I can say is look at Shakespeare and his expression of hoist by his own petard. We were hoist by our own petard. The disaster that is Shedler. Thank you very much.
Okay. With that, we'll close public comments and a motion to adjourn.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No. Good night.